We are going live right now.
Refreshing.
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 But scratcha.
Much
Special.
They are currently showing just the OBS webpage on your thing. You might want to refresh the browser input.
little bit of technical issues before we go right into this.
Just working it out.
Is it a tactical nuclear penguin?
And I'm listening in to their stream just to see if I hear anything.
We are live on YouTube. Hi, YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
Hello.
I'm still getting offline on Twitch.
Yeah, so am I.
Apparently
You're
muting
reading
it
here.
on your guys' end mutes it entirely because there's no sound that I can tell.
You got live on Twitch?
We're live.
Yep.
Yeah.
Live,
everything's
got
reading here.
viewers. Know about the sound. Anybody who is viewing this right now, if you can hear sound, please let us know.
Especially if you can hear anybody other than us talking.
That's right.
Okay, I see what's going on.
Yep, there's a constant repeat on their end.
I was like, I hear them fine, I just can't hear
Hear us. Yeah.
It's funny because I keep seeing us as offline on Twitch.
Yep. Trying to figure out some technical difficulties, but in the meantime, you can watch me draw Deadpool.
Cool. I'm going to miss all that.
As long as you actually make him have feet, we're okay.
Draw his wrists
There's
and
no
ankles.
feet.
Draw his
No
wrists and
feet.
ankles.
Yeah, the Twitch
Ankles
stream for
now.
Holosuite's not going yet.
What the heck?
Do we need to switch over to yours, or?
No, everything's working fine. The keys are right. Everything's the way it's supposed to be.
Which is
Wondering
just
if
dumb.
Twitch is just being stupid.
Apparently we were the last broadcast, though.
Apparently, this didn't update either. What is going on? Hold on.
Yay for technical difficulties.
No, it's Twitch.
It is Twitch.
Yeah, it's Twitch.
YouTube was working just fine. We're sorry. This
I'm
was
gonna
not supposed
test
to be
my
this way.
OBS.
Yeah, because it's still coming up as Twibbles and Ecstasy when it should say the Geek Easy.
Twibbles?
Twibbles.
Twiggles.
Twiggles.
Still just seeing just a big OBS chain. I mean, window down the bottom left of Comfort&Adam stream.
Because the Twitch one's still not actually broadcasting, even though YouTube's apparently doing it.
Well, even if we weren't broadcasting, it would show the Holosuite media thing and say offline. Welcome to live broadcasting.
It's a bitch.
Indeed.
Is your stream rated PG plus
yeah,
whatever? Or
yeah,
is it-
yeah. How okay are you with cursing on your stream?
It's gotta be Holosuite.
Yeah, I wonder if the thing got changed again. Should I do a thing?
I'm gonna throw out my technical difficulties banner on my stream because
This is why we're looking
Yeah.
to go solo.
YouTube is up and running. You guys want that so you can stream that?
No, what I'll do is I'll do like I usually do. Just give me a minute.
We're professional at this.
It's
Yeah.
not us.
It's not
Can
us.
I get the YouTube stream? Because I'm going to play World of Warships with the podcast up in the corner.
Not allowed to play where we play.
There's the YouTube stream.
Here, let me grab the pop-up for my channel.
how did I not already subscribed?
How this
We're
goes.
switching over now. And hey, we can see something on there.
Yay!
Yeah, but we got Firefly in our Twitch one.
Well,
He's kind of our consistent fan, as it were.
you can go over to mine in a minute. Let me get them the full, the pop out from mine.
Oh yeah, it's the YouTube one's working for them.
Oh well, the thing with the YouTube one though is they show the entire YouTube thing, not just the player.
It is showing the whole page, but we could maybe try and crop around that.
That's it from mine. Let me just adjust my stream title. And I just went live.
Hand's going to
We're
be in the
just
way.
moving this thing around
So
in
you
our
know.
little display, trying to crop out what we can and
All right.
get it down
Just
to
a heads
bare
up.
essentials.
There's
Yep, we are not allowed to. We are not connecting to the Twitch stream.
Okay. Drop a URL into mine on Holosuite.
That way we get Firefly.
Yeah. We're streaming currently on my channel. Let me get the Geek Easy logo going.
So wait a second. Wait. Drop you a link for what?
Drop a link to my stream in the Holosuite chat so Firefly and everybody can go to mine.
Crap, I don't remember how to do that.
Copy and paste.
/host space Alistair_Forthright.
So Wolfie's the only one who hasn't seen Guardians yet, right?
I believe that is true.
Well, I know my host thing works now.
I'm gonna have to contact Midnight and say, hey, did something happen? Am I not allowed on there anymore?
Okay. You want me to play the intro? And then you can play...
Do you have it?
I have the actual normal intro,
Oh, I didn't realize I gave you the intro.
but I don't have the special intro you made for today.
No, that I can. It's just audio, so I can hear that.
Okay, yeah. Okay then. Let me play it. Nobody's going to hear it on this side, so I'll just let you know when it's done.
All right. I'll tell you what. I'll run it for the YouTube on this end too. So, without further ado, here we go.
The following podcast is intended for mature audiences. The opinions expressed do not reflect this station or any affiliated partners. Listener discretion.
I wish you hadn't
is
have done
advised.
that, Adam,
Ladies and
because
gentlemen,
now they're going to hear it twice.
Welcome to the Geeky.
Sorry.
Just talking? Well, what's the show about? It's about nothing.
Well, a little bit of echo on your end.
Yeah, this is the moment you started playing it, I turned mine off.
Oh, sorry.
We managed.
Is there any audio from us over on Comfort&Adam stream yet?
They're seeing a lot of video.
But
Apparently
no.
they're not hearing anything. Well, besides through here, I'm assuming.
We hear you.
We hear you fine.
We hear you, and whomever was watching this with us saw some very nice
They missed
graphics.
that crazy metal intro, though.
Yeah, very disappointing.
Yes, courtesy of 331 E-Rock.
Yeah, and the technical difficulties of denying everybody who listens in watching.
The gloriousness of our voice.
Oh
Yes.
yes, the glorious of Norse. But in honor of our special guests who have been, well,
Well, see, now,
one of us has been
before
trying to
we-
get them on for 2 years. So.
Before we play that, we really do need to get the audio working on their stream so their listeners can hear it.
Oh yes.
No, I hear us through their stream.
You hear us on their stream?
Pretty sure.
Hang on.
Let's test and find out.
Who's watching our?
Yeah, I'm not hearing us at all on their stream.
Yeah,
No.
I hear us. We're just, or actually,
No,
No.
you don't.
oh, I have the other Twitch stream going. Whoopsie.
Yeah, I mean, if I can hear them fine if they're actually talking normally without push to talk for us, but I can't hear us at all through their stuff, which is probably because they're doing the headset thing, I imagine.
Yeah, we are headsetting it to avoid any echo.
But if you guys want us to, I don't think would they want us to have their volume on here so the volume gets recorded?
Yeah, if so long as you can have our audio go through your OBS, that would be fine.
At the very least, we can try it. I mean, this is kind of new for everybody.
Yeah, we've never done a triple stream like before, and
We
we're
don't do a
crossing
dual-
them obviously.
We haven't done a dual stream before.
Yeah, it's kind of
The
new. So.
quadruple stream, if you count me.
Well, You're not streaming though. You're watching.
No, I'm streaming,
Hmm.
and I have a viewer.
It's not me.
We can't live at these speeds.
Can't live in these streams.
So many.
Wait, are we crossing the streams?
think
I don't
we
know,
did.
but we're losing viewers.
I thought we weren't supposed to cross streams.
That would be bad.
Oh god, my neck just twitched like a bitch.
So, how about last night's AOS?
I actually watched it. It was okay.
There was some echo. Hang on. I got the phone off. Yeah, they got echo on their end.
So yeah,
Well-
Adam.
We're
No.
not getting any echo over here just listening, but what we could do, since we're on push to talk, right? If
Mhm.
we're not trying to talk over anybody, then you're not going to get the audio that we're listening to on your end when we're doing the talking.
Would
know,
you
when
like
we're
me
listening to you, then there's nothing else. There's no like mic activity on our end to pick up.
Would you like me to team viewer in and check your audio settings? Maybe get that working instead of having don't have to take off your headset and everything.
I mean, we can try it either way.
Hey, whatever works for you guys.
Yeah, it's your computer.
Yep, so how are we going to differentiate between special guest number 1 and our
Esteemed
our
leader.
fearless leader? Yeah, our esteemed leader.
Because he's
the
'cause
Grand
today he's butt
Poobah.
scratcher.
Are we going
Butt
for
scratcher.
yeah, are we going to go for fearless but scratcher leader?
No, just BS. Just call me BS. What scratcher?
But scratch, huh?
We can call you AI.
Well, yeah, about that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. While we're getting all the technical stuff going on here, we'll just jump right into it.
There was a lot of technical stuff in that too.
Yeah. I'm
Man.
just kind of upset we only have one more episode.
Yeah, because
Especially now that she's apparently the most powerful inhuman on the planet.
it's true. She really is an inhuman at this point.
Yeah, they'll figure something out. Ghostfire will fix all that.
This is
And
all
seriously-
new to us. We have not been watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a long time now.
Join the
We're
club.
missing a lot.
We tapped out after like season 2 or so.
It got so much better after that.
Yes.
Yeah. People
Yeah.
say that, but I don't
No,
know.
it really did. This past season has been cinematic all the way through. It's been really good.
I feel like people give Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a pass that they wouldn't give to the same show if it wasn't a Marvel show.
Now again,
Mhm.
we don't know
That's true.
because we haven't been
That's
watching.
true.
It's
But
like
there were Shield apologists all through the first several seasons, and now they turn around and say, "Oh, well, no, those were bad after all." But now, it's sort of like people who keep watching Walking Dead. They keep saying, "Oh, no, whatever the last season was that aired, that was a bad one." But the new one, that's the quality.
Yeah, I don't do zombies, so I haven't never watched The Walking Dead. I think zombies are boring. But
Walking
no, I
Dead
understand.
proves you out.
Have we ever been apologist for them?
No, we've actually
No.
we've
No.
actually said they had some bad seasons.
Yeah, we
I-
ripped them up right off the bat. If they were bad, they were bad.
I mean, keep in mind, I've been here for like the past month and a half, and I've been like, I ain't watching it. You know, it just got bad.
No, last night's episode had a couple. The one big one that stood out to me was we had a really good show dealing with the storyline they've been working on and the Inhuman stuff and all the virtual reality stuff they've been dealing with and then all of a sudden there was just like Ghost Rider just because we had no place else to fit it into the show. Here he is.
They should have had how they should have handled that is I think one of Talbot's men should have tried to power on that device, and then that's what
Yeah,
brought him
something.
through.
I mean, it's like yeah,
unless they explain it in the next episode, the last episode. Which
they better because
possible.
last time I knew he couldn't get out.
It was kind of the idea.
Yeah. And all of a
The
sudden, it's like,
ghost-
oh, guess what? I'm here. I guess the Darkhold called him or something.
Tank and I talked about this a little bit last night, but the Ghost Rider graphics are looking better than ever.
Yes. They did look really
They've done
good.
well with that, though.
How are we
Yes.
doing technical-wise?
Well, I just sent them. They should have a new tab down at the bottom of TeamSpeak where I'm talking with them directly in text chat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Technical support here.
Well,
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The last time that I had seen Shield was probably maybe 2 or 3 episodes in of the new when this season started.
well, with Marvel's TV stuff basically exploding because we're getting the Inhumans, we have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we got all the Netflix stuff, we're gonna have Cloak and Dagger, and it's now become its own it's like the television universe that I guess recently Kevin Feige has said that it's pretty much inevitable that we're gonna have to cross over somewhere.
Yep.
It will happen.
The question is, what's going to be cross?
in his chair?
What's going to be seen first?
We gotta have the Punisher. We gotta have the Punisher in movies.
Well, Punisher, but I'm talking about who are we going to see in the TV series? Are we going to see the Defenders make an appearance?
Yes.
Possibly. I honestly think that we're going to see them a lot sooner. I think with all the characters they're throwing at the Infinity War and Infinity Gauntlet, we're going to see all of them. There is no way that they're going to allow something that big. I mean, they can't do that. So
Even
far,
if
they
they
kept
did
them
bring
separate.
in the Netflix stuff, they would have to bring in Shield.
Yes.
Sorry, I got distracted. There was an advertisement on us.
Yeah, they switched from YouTube to my stream, and there was an ad.
It's for a burrito.
Yeah, but we
Taco
got your
Bell.
stream running now.
No.
Yeah.
So the question is, can people hear
There is
more
no
than
audio.
our voices?
Still no
I-
audio.
Yeah, down at the bottom of TeamSpeak, there should be a third tab that says My Name. I'm text chatting with you guys to ask you some questions and everything, get some information so I can maybe the remote in and see what's going on.
Hit it with a hammer, that kind of thing.
But
Virtual
we'll
hammer.
keep talking.
Yeah, we got stuff we can cover in the meantime before we get into the meat and potatoes.
Yeah,
Hey, on
when I
steroids.
hear the Infinity Gauntlet or Infinity War, and then obviously it's going to be Gauntlet, the next one, when they're talking 65 to 75 characters, and it's a world-ending event, how are they not going to incorporate stuff they've already established?
Yeah.
I think they're going to bring in Adam Warlock sooner than Guardians 3.
Yeah.
No, that's already been confirmed as not going to happen. I thought Feige said that no, Adam Warlock will not be Infinity War.
He did not in Infinity War. He hasn't said anything about the fourth movie.
Oh, that's true. Gauntlet could show up in Gauntlet because he is the one who finally actually defeats Thanos, isn't he?
Yeah, this is in the original story, yeah, as I recall.
Because, I mean, he was supposed to be in Guardians 2 as a big role.
Originally, yes. Now,
Yeah,
yeah, what?
I was just say, speaking of Guardians 2, I actually finally got to see it yesterday.
Hey.
What Yondu said at the end of the first film makes a whole lot of sense in the second film.
Yes.
Now,
we've all but Wolfie seen it?
Wolfie's the
I
only
have
one who has
not seen it, correct.
Son of a...
So
How am I
no
supposed to spoil it?
spoilers for one of us. So we have to speak in very general terms.
Or we can just
okay.
have him mute.
Well, we can do this then. I myself know my rating on it. I out of the 5 stars or whatever we're gonna do, 5 whatevers.
We usually go off like the IMDb score.
Yeah.
Five Groots.
I would give it
No,
a 3.5 to 4 Groots.
Tade?
I'm giving it a 4.25 Baby Groot.
Alistair?
I'd probably say 4 Groots.
And for us, I think we're probably somewhere around like 4 Groots.
Yeah, 4's fair.
4 is fair.
I'm gonna give it probably like 4.3 out of 5 Ravagers.
You had to be different.
He is
He's a
rolling.
pirate.
Well, I did rate it after I was done watching it and doing the IMDb score thing, but yeah, I would give it a 4. Because on the IMDb, I gave the first Guardians a 9, and I would rate this at least equal to that. So yeah, 4 is definitely solid. 4 solid Groots.
Yeah, it's good. I will say I think the first one was better as a movie. I think it was a little more cohesive, but
And that's the consensus from everybody I've seen.
yeah, I mean it's still a good movie. It is not a bad movie whatsoever. I mean it's better than any of the Thor films.
And when the first film is that good, it's almost unfair to have to compare them.
True.
Because Guardians 1 was a mold breaker in an awful lot of ways, and you can't do that twice.
All right, I figured out why there's no audio going through on their stream.
Cool. Can you fix it?
Alistair is unavailable.
It should be fixed as soon as I actually set it up to pick up their actual desktop audio.
Oh, so that's what the setting is. That's got to be changed.
What is the audio device you guys use to actually listen? What's it called?
Usually, if you're wanting desktop audio, it's stereo mix.
It's the high def audio. You're on it right now.
Okay. Still not broadcasting anything for some reason.
You may have to go into...
Try swapping... let me... I saw where you were. Let me see if I can work this.
Did we lose Firefly?
He hasn't spoken yet. He's still there.
You want to
Any better?
him over to Alistair's stream so he can talk to us over there?
No, there's no nothing being picked up on there.
Might be because it's going through headsets.
If I may, I would really say, guys, that Adam and I should take the headset out as long as you guys aren't picking up your audio on your side. I think it's likely we will not get a echo.
We can try.
We can try.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, the worst we have to do is go back to what we were doing and just kind of make it happen, make it work.
Yep.
You just have to sacrifice a goat.
If anybody wants to hear, if they want to have 2 streams running at the same time, they could have you could drop a link to the YouTube so they could watch or hear that listen to the YouTube while watching you guys.
All right, well, I'm going to disconnect for you guys.
Because I am monitoring that.
Aha.
Uh-huh.
Aha.
Jawohl.
Jawohl.
Eureka.
Bye.
So everyone can hear everyone now.
Yes.
Aha. We got people talking on their chat, so I guess they hear us.
Man, oh man, oh man.
All right,
man.
now.
I hear no echoes.
I hear no echoes. This
You know
is
what? It is almost disappointing that the simplest possible solution
Well,
that we could have done immediately.
I said this a while ago because we
I know.
did this with David Peterson, where he sometimes likes to call in and we chat whilst we're doing our stream. And so if he has the audio off on his side, then it doesn't get an echo. The echo happens where the other people are not wearing headsets, and we're having to wear headsets to accommodate them. So that's where the disconnect was.
Oh.
Hey, now Firefly is saying he hears us. So we got everybody.
Yay.
All right, the show starts now.
Play the second intro.
Well, wait a second. Can Firefly hear us? Oh, I can hear myself.
Oh no, I think they were pushing to talk.
Oh, okay.
I think Firefly can hear us.
Yes.
Or at least he will tell us if he can't hear us.
Well, you know how you can kill that? You can just mute your speakers. It'll still pick it up through OBS. It just you won't be able to hear it through your externals. That's what I do on my end. You just hit your little mute button.
Or just turn off the speakers.
But
Yeah,
then they
this
won't be
would-
able to hear us this way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay,
it's working.
whatever.
Touch it.
Yeah.
No touchy.
Oh, cool.
The
We're all
band
good.
works.
All right,
So-
well.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Here we are, half hour into it. Sure, we finally figured everything out, and everybody can hear us. Hi, everybody on Comfort and Adam's stream. Again, on YouTube. We lost quite a few viewers on YouTube because of all this, but hopefully we'll get
This
them
was
back.
the first.
I'll say technical issues are over. I'll Twitter and Facebook it and say we're back. You can watch us here. You can watch us on their stream. You can watch us on Twitch. But in honor of our special guest today, we whipped up a little something. It's just audio. I didn't have time to do a video. So here we go.
From days of long ago, from uncharted regions of the comic verse, comes a legend. Rainbow in the Dark. A mighty omnibus, loved by fans, feared by foolish publishing companies. As Rainbow's legend grew, fandom settled across the verse. On planet Earth, a podcast was formed. Together with the righteous nerds of the solar system, they discussed fandom throughout the cosmos. Until a horrible new menace threatens the galaxy. And Rainbow in the Dark is needed once more. This is the story of the super force of artists, Adam Withers and Comfort Love. Entrusted by the fandom with the ancient secret of how to assemble sweet sequential art.
Welcome to the Geek Easy. I can't even say it. Geek Easy, Comfort and Adam.
You don't even know how happy you've made me to use a Voltron riff for our intro. That oh man. Oh. You're not gonna find a bigger Voltron fan than this guy right here.
So, very important question then.
It's my
Lion or
fault.
vehicle?
I mean, are you kidding? Of course, lion. What? Vehicle? Who would say vehicle?
You're not
That's
even
like
the good Voltron. You're the crappy car Voltron.
Picking vehicle Voltron, that's ridiculous.
I didn't even know that they had vehicles.
You didn't miss anything.
Obviously, they had to come back with some garbage
No,
because it was the quest for more money.
Pretty much.
Like vehicle Voltron being your favorite Voltron is kind of like I don't know. It's like if your favorite Justice League is the Detroit era.
Hey, some people's favorite Justice League is going to be the Detroit era.
That's true. And some people like black licorice, but that doesn't mean that they're...
I don't know. If you're a Michigander, probably like Detroit.
No. I don't think just a general love of your hometown is enough to make you a particular fan of a Justice League that was just like Aquaman, Vibe, and Gypsy.
Wasn't it also
Captain Steel?
No,
yes,
not Captain
it was
Steel. Yes.
Comfort.
Vixen,
sure,
Thank you.
before
and
anybody
Vixen.
gave a damn about Vixen.
Oh, all right.
And Martian Manhunter.
And
All
Martian
right.
Manhunter. All right, you know.
The seventh member of the Big Seven who is always replaced as soon as DC gets a chance.
Who is actually secretly the most powerful of them all.
I don't think it's a secret. I think that's part of his problem. People have a hard enough time figuring out how to write a decent Superman for some reason. If you take all of that and make it even more powerful and even less human, they're just completely lost.
Yeah, it's a good possibility of that.
Can I now make Adam sad?
By all means.
I based that off the Vehicle Voltron intro, not the Lion one, because the Lion one says specially trained and sent by the Alliance to bring back Voltron, and I did the entrusted by the Alliance with the ancient secret of how to assemble Voltron one.
See, here's the thing, though. You say that like I didn't know. And I was just so glad to get any Voltron reference. Really, I'm a thirsty man in the desert.
I will
friends.
make sure to send you that file.
Any Voltron reference is one that I'll be happy to
You should
have.
enjoy Voltron's Legendary Defender. Then that's actually I really enjoy it itself. So
I've seen the first season 3 times, and I haven't had a chance to get a second viewing of the second season. But no, I have loved Legendary Defender.
Did you really watch them 3 times? So you watched it 2 other times?
Yeah, just on my lonesome at night while I was doodling.
Jesus Christ, man.
I liked that show.
Sometimes the baby used to doodle.
Sometimes you can't.
That just
only
sounds
draw
dirty.
For work. You can't if you can't draw for pleasure. You got to get out of this business.
There has been plenty of times where we cannot draw for pleasure, so I would say we have got to get out of this business. My God, whole 6 months.
on that subject, actually, we could actually, since we got you guys here, we can do some open questions for you, and also I guess we should probably kind of introduce you a bit.
Sure. For those who don't know,
We can always introduce ourselves, or Tank. I guess you also, I would say, know us well.
Somewhat. But I know you guys happen to be, I don't know, was it Hugo nominated?
Harvey Award.
Harvey Award.
Harvey,
nominated.
thank you.
We haven't cracked the Hugos. Goodness.
Yep. I am Comfort Love, and you are
Adam Withers.
And together we are Comfort and Adam, and we are the two-headed hider of comics. We both write, both draw, both color, and both letter all of our comics whilst publishing our books.
Yes, we have self-published every book we've ever released, except for the Complete Guide to Self-Publishing Comics. We put that out through Random House.
So the only book that we've done through a publisher
is the book about how to self-publish.
That's right.
Irony of ironies. We do 2 comic series primarily, The Uniques and Rainbow in the Dark. Rainbow is a completed series. Uniques is still ongoing.
We are working on Uniques right now.
I am drawing pages while we talk, yeah.
Yep, whilst I draw Deadpool. And then we also have a webcomic series called Kitty Game.
Featuring the art of Corinne Roberts, written by us. That's the first time we've done a project where we weren't doing all of the art ourselves.
Which is glorious, and we plan on doing more of it.
Cool. Hey guys, when you're not talking, unkey.
Gotcha.
Okay, because we can hear ourselves.
Scroll locks on.
Uh-oh.
No, we got it.
Okay.
We've got it, but it's still stuck.
There we go. It was just really weird. I was like, "Oh, look, it's me." And every once in a while, the echo gets worse. It's like sometimes it's right on it, and sometimes it's off of it.
We'd have 3 Adams, then 4, then 5. Oh God, why?
I got a question though. How did you guys get into this? Uh-oh, I broke them.
For shame, fearless butt scratching.
Sorry, my finger slipped. We got into comics mostly by making comics. It's kind of a cheap answer, but it's the truth. That's why we self-publish. It's just at a certain point, we had done the dance trying to get in with the big publishers, getting the portfolio reviews and all that, and we decided that rather than waiting for somebody else to give us permission to make books, we were just going to do it.
And in part, why we decided not to go with the big guys was because every time we went and we did portfolio reviews, we got a lot of few different comments. And everybody always loved our stuff. They loved our art. They loved our ideas, and that was great. But our teenagers look too much like teenagers. And in comics, especially at that time, teenagers should look like 25-year-old adults. And then, also, we were too cartoony. So even though, in our opinion, our style lives sort of in between animated realism, you can sort of see what I'm working on right here. But for the comic companies, we were too cartoony. And then the last one was that our women looked like women and not like supermodels.
Too much like normal people.
Yep. And so that trio of combination, or that combination, was something that made us feel like this was not necessarily the world we wanted to go into with comics, because we could already see the change coming.
Yeah. Well, there was an awful lot. The feeling we walked away with was they'd be happy to hire us just so long as we made ourselves look like a different artist, right. Somebody else that they've already got.
If we could be Jim Lee.
Sure, they'd hire us in a heartbeat.
Right. Which is what many of our other friends who at the time had different, cool, interesting styles had to adhere themselves to. So many people had to just change.
We've had to watch a lot of great artists slowly blandize themselves into something more marketable, and we didn't want to have to do that. We had already been doing conventions in a professional capacity for a number of years. We knew people liked our art, and we knew that people were interested in the kind of stuff we wanted to do. Just because some publisher didn't agree didn't mean that we were crazy. So we decided to take a chance. We decided to put a book out there, show people what we could do, and prove that there was interest in the kind of stories we wanted to make. There was interest in the kind of art we wanted to make. They just hadn't maybe seen it yet.
Well, by the end of the first year, we were doing this full time. So it didn't take long to make this our permanent job. So obviously there was an audience out there, and I think that's a testament to other people. So instead of just waiting around and waiting for permission to do what you think should be done, find a way to do something that other people maybe haven't, or to make an end run around the system and find your way in the door. Because every time a door opens, it gets shut behind that person who gets into the business that way. So it's up to you. It's incumbent on you as a creator to say, how is it my turn? And make that so.
Yes. Having done all that myself, I know, yes. I have been there, been to the convention, showed my stuff, and let's see, this would have been 97, right around 97 when I stopped doing it. Well, because I also realized I didn't want to draw sequential art. I really didn't want to do it. It was not something I wanted to do. It was like everyone's like, "Oh, you should do comics. You should do comics." And I was like, "Yeah, maybe." And so I drew up some pages and I did some portfolio sample things and this, that, and the other thing. And I went through the conventions and I did the route. And I mean, I got positive reviews, but I got the butts. It was like, but usually it was my sequential stuff wasn't as on par as it should. I only got one. My anatomy is off, but that was from Image Comics at the time. And I walked away giggling because I was like, yes, okay, every one of your characters has 12 stomach muscles, but my anatomy is wrong. And it's like, yeah, I taught anatomy, guys, so please don't. I know how to draw ankles and feet. But yeah, I know how difficult it is that. And actually, having just gone on Comic Book Day and met a couple of artists, I asked him, I was like, I know people who'd like to get into it. How did you, because he's drawing right now for, crap, I can't remember. He's doing Sonic and was it Femforce? And, he said it's really a who you know kind of thing at this point. It's like unless you're like extremely good, you really, I mean, it's just do it yourself and see what happens.
Frankly, even if you're extremely good, they want you to have proven yourself somewhere else first. Nobody wants to hire you on to build your audience for you. They want to hire you on so you'll bring your audience to them.
Now, how long ago were you guys doing? Were you doing the convention route? How long have you guys been doing this?
We've been doing conventions like sitting in Artist Alley since
2003.
Mm-hmm. And we started self-publishing. The last year that we really pushed our portfolio with other
2006.
2006.
Which is when I met them.
Yeah.
Wait a second, you were too cartoony in 2006?
Right. Here's the thing. The very same month that we had a Marvel editor tell us, I love your style, I love it, I want to use you immediately, but my editor would never go for it, or my boss would never go for it because it's just too cartoony, nobody wants it. That same month, Ed McGuinness was drawing the Ultimates.
That's what I was going to say. Ed McGuinness is nothing but cartoons.
But at the same time, you had Green Lantern Rebirth, you had... What was happening in comics is that there was a resurgence of
early 90s
/ mid 80s, and so what was happening, Final Crisis or Countdown, Final Crisis, whatever, all that kind of stuff. And so what it was doing is it was bringing back fans who were at that time generally around 35, and that age group liked a certain kind of art. And so they were systematically taking out all the people who did something different because it was back to that Jim Lee era.
Like all the people our age who had come up with like Joe Madureira, J. Scott Campbell, Chris Pacello, all those kinds of artistic styles were just getting rubbed out. And the fans of those styles were getting pushed aside to bring back the older fans.
It's part of the reason comics are having continually... such a hard time is because whatever fan base they had then, anybody who was 25 and under was in a lot of ways pushed out. And we were that's who we were at the time. That's who a lot of people were. But even then, we saw the influx of anime, like fangirls and stuff coming, down the pike. We saw, the moments of the fan base starting to change over. And again, thank God we took the route that we did, because I think we would have been working in a style that we didn't like on books we don't care about.
Oh yeah.
If we had done those changes and drawn the sexy ladies and drawn the teenagers that looked like 25-year-olds and decided to do ultra realistic, super hatchy art.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing where all the trouble and all the struggle and all the sacrifice that we've had to do to make it as self-publishers has been absolutely worth it in exchange for being able to be so passionate about the work that we're doing. Making books that matter to us, telling stories that matter to us. I would give almost anything to have this level of passion in the work that we produce.
Well, that does segue into an open question. Because we had prepared a few ahead of time. And if we get to them, we get to them. But anyway, one of them was, what was your guys' opinion on the state of the comics industry in general, and where do you see it evolving into? I mean, you're part of the convention circuit, so you're kind of on the, I guess, the ground floor, as it were, so you can kind of see where things are going and where you think, kind of get a feel for it.
Yeah. So comics in general right now, comics, people who read comics are unfortunately very few and far between.
I'm not sure if there's ever been a greater distance between the number of people who are interested in comic characters and the number of people who are actually reading comic books than there are right now.
Now, I don't think that's necessarily a thing where people have been completely uninterested in reading comics. I think that Marvel and DC, who are our ambassadors, have done a pretty piss poor job at bringing new people in. As a just quick for instance, so Black Panther, comes out, he's in Civil War, very popular. They do the Black Panther book, and the Black Panther book sells like crazy.
Oh yeah, one of the best-selling titles of last year.
And what does Marvel do? Marvel's like, excellent, it's selling like crazy. We're going to dilute the market and put out another 3 or 4 Black Panther books for all those Black Panther fans. But the reality is that's not how new fans read.
That's not how almost anybody reads. Every time they put out a second or a third book that's a spin-off of the original, it dilutes the support for that original. There's, 8 Avengers books right now or something like that? 7 or 8 Avengers titles?
A lot.
Nobody's going to read all of those. And nobody really wants all of those. The thing is, and that a lot of people aren't really getting, is the average fan doesn't want to buy a line of comics. They want to buy books that they enjoy. If they enjoyed Black Panther, their idea is not, man, I wish there were 3 or 4 more books that were identical to this one. No, they want to read other things. And they want to try different stuff.
Right.
I think that, so on the one hand, you've got this huge disparity between the number of people interested in comics and the number of people actually reading the books. But there's also this explosion of quality and talent in the indie scene. Books that are becoming breakout successes, mainstream successes, with people who maybe don't read any other comics. There are a lot of people who read Saga and don't read anything else. There are a lot of people who read like Wicked and the Divine and wouldn't consider themselves comic readers. So
we have people who read our books and they won't read anything else. And I think that is in part because comics themselves make it hard to get into them. I think you have to realize too that, the biggest readers right now, reading comics and manga, are generally those young ladies who were reading manga in the early thousands. And the women outnumber the men in that. And even the men who were reading that manga, when they're reading Naruto, there's not 18 different Naruto books, right? There's just one. And that's going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that's what they're used to.
And they want that.
Yes.
You'd never hear, I remember for a while, long before the series actually ended, hearing Naruto fans saying, man, I can't wait for the end.
No, this was
is gonna be
Bleach.
huge. Bleach was the same way.
Yes.
Bleach, you actually heard Bleach fans saying they need to wrap this up.
Yes.
We need to get to the ending because it's time to be done. You would never hear a Batman fan, like a classic comic reading Batman fan, be like, this is great, but they really should wrap it up,
Batman just needs to end.
So the readership has been changing for a while, has been shifting for a while, but the producers, the publishers have been very slow to keep up with that change, with some exceptions. And that's why I think you see the indie scene exploding so much and such success happening at the fringes for these handful of books that are able to get enough exposure that people can hear about them and give them a try. Because people like comic books. They do. They did the same thing for Sandman when it was running. Sandman was outselling every other book that DC published. And a lot of Sandman readers weren't reading anything else. It's not an issue of figuring out how you can best exploit your readers to improve your market share and to bump your numbers for the next quarter. It's about how you can satisfy people enough that they're going to be comfortable and happy and interested to try other things.
So I don't know if you've noticed, I'm just throwing up randomly pictures on our stream that you guys have done. As we
we're
go.
seeing it.
So currently on your art station, I'm then going to switch over to the DeviantArt.
I find it funny that you bring up the Bleach thing, because I think part of that, from what I was reading when they did that, was the Shonen Jump just kind of like jumping down his throat, like, you have to have this done by this week. And he just lost interest.
Oh yeah, well, Bleach was being controlled and manipulated from the beginning. If you read the first several chapters of Bleach, it was obviously designed to be a horror story. But then somewhere along the way, the editors were like, we need more battle manga. So could you bring in some more fights and make it more about this other thing? So it slowly transforms from the book that he set out to make into the book that they could more easily sell. And I think you start seeing pretty quickly a shift in the creator from somebody who's into this story and the characters to somebody who mostly just likes goofing around drawing the characters, but doesn't really take nearly as much interest in the story he's telling.
Team Tidy Kubo was the ones who really probably finished Bleach for the most part.
Potentially.
Yeah, and to be fair, when they started doing the actual animated series, they caught up to where they were at so fast that it was like there were so many fillers that was like I think it was at the point that they just said, you know what, let's just end the series right here, type of thing.
That's happened to a few of the animes that's out there. I mean, they ran into that for the Rurouni Kenshin series. Like, oh wait, you're not done yet? Well, crap. Let's just make fillers, and then we never come back to it.
Can we say Piccolo trying to get his driver's license?
Yeah.
Okay, that was a great filler episode.
Yeah, well, and the filler episode about what was underneath Kakashi's mask was one of the best ever.
Oh, good God.
Classic.
I am honestly surprised that they actually continued Naruto all the way up to its ending, more or less.
We got Firefly here. Kakashi. Yeah, we got Firefly on our chat here, and he brought up something about Mobile Suit Gundam. He said that this discussion has reminded him of a tidbit he recalled hearing about it, and that the original concept for Mobile Suit Gundam was that the mobile suits were just supposed to be power armor, but someone, I forgot who, decided that the best way to compete with existing giant robot shows was with another giant robot show.
Sounds about right.
Ironically, it is Gundam that's pretty much the de facto standard now when it comes to giant robots.
At least in anime, if you go to like video games and such, it's a much more crowded market. You got, MechWarrior, BattleTech, and Gundam, and there's a few others that are out there that I can't think of off the top of my head, but
an interesting thing about this whole concept of filler, to bring it back to the American books, is that is something that Japanese producers have not been able to figure out that is pretty much the bread and butter of American comic publishers, isn't it? I mean, who better than Marvel and DC to know how to tell a story that does all the things you want to see without actually progressing the story of the characters at all?
I think Hush is my favorite example
Batman
of that.
Hush.
Exactly.
12 issues of everything you could ever want to see in a Batman story, and by the end, nothing in the status quo has changed whatsoever.
maybe it's a Western concept, cultural thing, because I would think they would just have different thoughts on those particular processes for telling a story versus what we do. I mean, there's different looks for the art, for example, and so I can imagine that maybe it's just a different method entirely, and so that's why it doesn't click with, Japanese publishers.
My guess is that it's a budgetary issue. They just don't want to. It's a filler, so we're not going to pay the same. We're not going to put the same effort or the same amount of time.
See, and that's what I like about Attack on Titan with the anime adaptation versus the manga. The manga's so far ahead, and they waited to release season 2, and they're doing a shorter season this year. So that way they don't have filler episodes.
Otherwise, they have to go back and they make an Ultimate, like Hellsing Ultimate or
like
Full Metal
Naruto
Alchemist?
and Full Metal Alchemist.
I would put Full Metal Alchemist up as an example of something I actually really respect in the manga and anime adaptation issue, because I would much rather you go out on a limb and do your own story without doing the filler. I think there's a lot more creative ground to be covered. There's a lot more gold to be mined. And I think that while Brotherhood is, okay, sure, certainly a superior production, the first series of Full Metal Alchemist still stands as solid storytelling. It is an interesting alternate version of that story that you can watch and still enjoy for what it is.
Yeah, it's basically one of those few series that it can stand on its own, as from deviating from the source material.
Whereas you get things like the last part of Rurouni Kenshin, you're just like, that wasn't really good. The stories in general just weren't all that good. And it's just like in a holding pattern, and then they just never went back to it. When the manga caught up or something. I don't know what happened there. I just know that Viz Media didn't actually release anything, so I'm willing to bet nothing else was animated from the manga series. So, yeah.
Well, look at the huge gap you had in DBZ stateside.
At which point?
When Cartoon Network was running it, they reached a certain point in the series, and then they just stepped away for a number of years and then had to come back to it.
I must have missed that part.
I do want to go back to something that Adam and Comfort mentioned, which was that a lot of the people who read their stuff, a lot of people who read certain things don't call themselves comic fans, and I kind of have to agree with that. For example, I've owned the whole Rainbow in the Dark collection, but I don't consider myself a comic book fan because most of the stuff doesn't really, hit for me. But whereas Rainbow kind of it's told and presented in a way that I find it entertaining.
Thank you so much. We do really appreciate it. And I would say that the books that we make, because we knew too, again, and making books is as much about being creative and making awesome stories as it is about watching a market. And
connecting with a readership.
Exactly. And we saw how many new fans or potential new fans were coming in and wanting to read things, but we wanted for us to make something that wasn't closed off to a new fan base, that was there to invite you in to be like, you know what, I know what you think comics might be, or you think they might be tedious or whatever, but no, this is really easy to read. It's really fun. It's really poppy. You can read it as a young person and read it one way, and you can read it as an older person and read it a completely different way. Doing things for everybody, whether you're a comic fan or not, that's who we are. That's our bread and butter.
One of the advantages we have as self-publishers is we have the flexibility to look at what's happening and just make a unilateral decision that we're going to react to this. We looked out at how people were reading, the people we were meeting at conventions, all of the different fans we were talking to, and we listened. We listened to what they were saying about what they were reading. We engaged them about what they were reading, what they liked, what they didn't like, what was working for them, and what was it that was pushing them away. What are the reasons that people can love certain comics and yet still insist that they are not comic readers? What is it, and how can we then design books that can cross that barrier and reach those people at the same time as it's reaching a more traditional comic readership?
That does segue into yet another open question. What would be a project or a genre or a series that you guys would love to work on if you had the opportunity to do so, besides obviously your own current projects?
We have books planned for, I would say, a lot of genres, like a fantasy
true.
book. We've got a horror book.
We've
got
I think
a time travel book.
Our next project
Yes.
is probably going to be a horror story, which is going to be interesting for us because neither of us are necessarily big horror fans exactly, but when we had the idea for this story, it just really struck us hard and has been with us for a long time now. So it's usually a good sign that you should tell that story if you can't stop thinking about it. So that's I think that's the next one down, and
Right.
we do have a interesting, bizarre time travel thing we want to do. Curiously, we tend to be dipping our toes a lot in genres I'm not necessarily that interested in. Like time travel stories, I usually don't like because I usually find them to be stupid and they never set up or establish good enough rules for themselves. And then if they do, they break those rules terribly. I don't usually like time travel stories. I usually don't like horror stories, mostly because I don't like being scared. I'm a huge wuss. I want to be entertained, and being scared isn't entertaining for me.
I like this guy.
Yeah. I will quickly say that if there was a no holds barred thing for like the Marvel or the DC universe to restructure and start from zero and bring it to an end and conclusion, I would be happy to do some of that. Now that opportunity will never arise because even if they were to promise it to us, it would be a lie.
Yeah.
And not an intentional lie. But once things got popular, you would never be able to end that story. And mostly, like, I would be fine with ending the story that we make and then allowing it to rest. And then they can restart another story. But I just don't think that's how they're interested in doing books.
So like doing a story similar to All-Star Superman.
Sort of, yeah. We've thought about. I mean, when we still really wanted to work for those companies, we thought about what our dream projects would be. I'd love to do something with Green Lantern. We would love to do like an all-star treatment of Cyclops and Jean Grey, but it's the sort of thing that isn't going to happen.
No.
And there's just at this point those properties have become so convoluted and twisted up. I don't know.
It's such a mess.
It's such a mess. It's a hornet's nest in there, man.
Yeah. So even as creators, it's hard to ever be like, yay. So instead, we have a superhero story that we make and we get to control and we get to say, how that works. And rather than, I think, even working out any of, the Marvel DC things that we would have had, we said, let's just go from scratch.
Yeah.
Let's wipe the slate clean. Let's say, how would a world function, a society function, if you had something as crazy and batshit as people with powers?
Yeah, skip past the world hates and fears them stage that everybody seems to want to sit in forever and move on to the assimilation stage and see what happens the way that society actually would grow and change and develop.
And how do you take that story from the beginning, the middle, and the end and watch the characters grow and change as you end that world?
Not even
around
just
them.
the beginning and middle. Like, we have structured the Uniques to be like, when you pick up the first issue of the Uniques, you're starting at the beginning of the third act of the story. Superheroes have been around doing their thing for a long time. The characters you follow are the children of these previous generations of heroes who've laid all this groundwork out. And instead of traditional superhero storytelling where you've got a first act and then you just keep repeating your second act forever, we're going to jump to the end and take it through that way. So, to the extent that we've had other stories we've wanted to do or other characters we've wanted to work with, we have put a lot of effort into taking those dreams and desires and what if kind of things and restructuring it into a story that we can tell and can do anything we want with.
So what you're saying is that you're following the George Lucas method of storytelling. We're going to start here, go back there, and then we're going to move forward to here, and we're going to just misnumber everything.
Well, one of my favorite things in reading comics when I was young, when I was first starting to pick these up, the first comics that I collected regularly were Green Lantern and Justice League. This was like the international era of Justice League. And one of the things that drew me in so much as like a 6-year-old reader was that I felt like I was jumping into something that was much bigger than me. These characters had a history. The Green Lantern Corps was a bunch of people at the time, and the book wasn't just about Hal Jordan. It was a bunch of characters at once. Like, he's just the latest person to hold this title, and that sense of history and legacy and tradition that I was getting in, not at the ground floor, but jumping into something big.
Right. And two, you can do a story like this now because the zeitgeist is there.
Yeah. People understand superheroes now thanks to the films and TV shows and
films
stuff.
And even when we were starting it in 2008, you had a history of people watching like Batman the Animated Series and X-Men and all sorts of things that it was part of the mainstream. And so you can do a few little key things to be like, oh, it's sort of like this, and then go in a completely different direction.
And people can still follow you.
Right.
They get that starting point.
Right. All those other things that have come out paved the way for us, much like Lord of the Rings paved the way for Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
it's
Game of
in
Thrones
the zeitgeist.
Wouldn't have been able to function as well as it has if people hadn't watched Lord of the Rings and some of the things that followed after that. And okay, I get fantasy. So now I can look at a sort of deconstructionist fantasy story, and I understand the tropes and the basic elements of this kind of thing well enough that I can follow this much more complex and different and interesting kind of story.
I don't think we've ever had the word zeitgeist used on this show.
No.
I
don't think so.
That's a crime. That's one of the best words in the English language.
So many people don't know what it means.
Sadly. You're saying zeitgeist is not in the zeitgeist?
Yes.
Or the lexicon.
For anybody who doesn't know what zeitgeist is, what does the word zeitgeist mean?
Am I dictionary Adam now?
Yeah, well, Adam, as a child, got a thesaurus for one of his Christmas gifts, which he loved.
I loved
and
it so
he knows
much.
many, 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 many words.
I enjoy wordplay. What am I going to do?
So I've got a question for you. Since you're the Green Lantern fan.
Sure.
What do you think of the Green Loon turn?
Daffy Duck was hilarious. It was at the time that I'm thinking of, and you can correct me if this isn't the proper reference, but I'm thinking of the episode of where it was Duck Dodgers.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Yeah, and then they just guest starred every Green Lantern. So that episode aired before there was a Green Lantern movie. It aired either before or just as Rebirth was kicking in and people were getting interested in Green Lantern again.
Was it at the time? It was already at the time that Jon Stewart was Green Lantern, right?
It was around the time.
Yeah. So people had some familiarity with Green Lantern, but they didn't know like the core. If you would have asked me if I was ever gonna get to see Kilowog and Eratia and Selak like animated on television, I'd have called you crazy. I might even have slapped you in the face for being such a tease. But no, it was delightful and hilarious. And having Kevin Smith voice Hal Jordan was a cute bit of super deep inside fan service that I enjoyed.
It's not the question I thought would have ever popped up, but all right.
Well, there you go.
There we go.
We're doing all kinds of things different tonight.
Yeah, we try to keep it freewheeling here anyway, so it's a good thing.
Okay, I got to ask this. Marvel or DC?
Oh, God. DC for characters, Marvel for artists, although I guess that's shifting more now.
It's hard to say.
It's
You
really
want to say
hard.
growing up, I guess.
Yeah, I don't really read much of either anymore. But
I don't read any about
I've
it.
always loved DC's characters more. But I have to say Marvel has published more better stories on the whole. DC has Batman, and that's going to throw off your averages because Batman is the New York Yankees of comic characters. There's never a bad season. Like, if you're a Batman fan, you don't understand what it's like to be a comic fan. You don't understand what it's like to have to go through the dry periods. You know, even if the Batman comic sucks, there's probably a cool Batman thing on TV. If there's nothing cool with Batman on TV, there's probably a great Batman movie coming out. If there's no movie coming out, then there's probably some
Anyway,
other
so the
Batman
point is
thing.
that there's a lot of Batman.
There's
stuff.
no dry spell.
Okay, so
Everybody
now,
wants to do.
Don't
Anyways.
forget when the TV show came out, the comic was dying.
Right. The comic was dying, but it had just come off of a very popular and great period of creative growth and development. So just as the comic starts to fail and go into its, death rattles, the cartoon comes along and kills. And the cartoon was following up after a killer movie that excited the hell out of everybody. So Batman never has a dry spell. All the other characters that DC has, though, have struggled. Most of them have had at least one good story. Some of them have been fortunate enough to have one great story. But not everybody. Whereas Marvel characters have had many more opportunities to get handled by some exceptional writing talent.
Right. And if we're going to go into movies, I would say obviously.
Well, that's not.
Obviously.
That's just mean.
That's just mean.
That's mean.
Well, that could all change come June 2nd.
Yeah, I'm looking
Yeah,
forward
we'll
to
see.
Wonder Woman.
Nope. Even if Wonder Woman defies all odds and manages to be a good movie, it's not enough to undo what has been done.
We shall see.
See, I don't mind the DC movies because just like the comics, they have different tones and different styles, where there have been some pretty silly storylines and horrific villains horrific as in they're not bad guys, they're just there because they need a bad guy in the movie in the Marvel films. They took what's his name from the first Guardians. He danced off.
Ronan
was watered down. Both Thor films. I mean, Loki even seemed kind of in the first Thor film. It wasn't.
And Loki
until the
wasn't
Avengers.
even really the villain.
No, he
We
wasn't.
call Loki the villain of those movies.
So it's like I like the DC films to a point. I mean, Batman versus Superman has its bad points. I'm not going to say it's a great film,
Martha.
but yeah, that's probably the only really bad point in the film.
I think that the DC movies are a great example of the difference between objective and subjective criticism, because you can, even if something's really bad, you can still enjoy it, and you can not care about the bad things.
Nothing wrong with enjoying.
You're not crazy for this. I love a lot of terrible things. Major League is not a good movie. I love it.
No. Major League 3 is not a good movie. Major League 1 is amazing.
Major League 1 is acceptable.
I can't speak to it. I haven't seen.
Point being, while so far, like 3 strikes for the DC movies, objectively, just in terms of how they tell their story, they're badly done. In terms of how they are edited and pieced together and produced as films, they're objectively poorly made. That does not in any way mean that you can't really like them subjectively. Right. They can still have a great impact on you, and you can walk away loving them, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's not a problem, and I think that the internet makes it very difficult to have a nuanced conversation about the difference between a bad movie you like, a good movie you don't like, and whether or not your liking or disliking of things makes you a good or bad person.
Yes, like I cannot stand Logan.
We've had many discussions in previous episodes of how the internet can't seem to understand nuance in any way, shape, or form. They just get into their echo chamber and start screaming, and that's the end of that.
I always circle back to what I said about Star Trek Into Darkness. It's well shot, technically. It's a horrible Star Trek movie, but if you watch it as anything but Star Trek, it's very well done.
Yeah, if it wasn't not Star Trek, it would have been a pretty solid sci-fi film.
Had they ditched the Khan storyline and still went with the John Harrison, it would have been fine.
It's not Khan. It's not Khan.
No, it's
Khan.
Khan.
It's not Khan.
Khan.
No, I look at it this way. It's like I walked out. Even like you said, it's not a great Star Trek movie, but when you walk out of like Into Darkness, and I walked out of there, and I was like, man, was I entertained? Yeah.
It's still a good sci-fi movie.
Did I like it? I don't know. And that's how I felt about the DC films. But then comes Logan, and Logan gets critical appeal both from fans and from the critics. I walked out of there and had to apologize to my wife for dragging her to see that film.
And then there's like Force Awakens, being kind of a slight Star Wars fan here, just slightly. I went in there, yeah, just a little bit. I went in there hoping that this was going to be, great. It's going to be far better than at least the very first prequel, Phantom Menace. Is like, and I walked out going, JJ doesn't have an original bone in his body. I was disappointed. I still enjoy it, but I was disappointed by it.
At least
then we got Rogue One. Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say at least
Yes.
Lucasfilm redeemed itself for at least the prequel films with Rogue One.
And I don't think all of that was JJ. I think some of that very much was Disney and Lucasfilm going, we need a soft rock bed here to let people land on to get the springboard going.
Well, it also is, I think, has something to do with the fact that with Lucas, he was well known to constantly change his mind about this, that, and whatnot, and so he had complete creative control, which, granted, he had all right to have. It was his project. It was his baby. But when you have more people involved, in the case with Disney and Lucasfilm now, and they seem to have a better feel of what their audience wants. They seem to be doing a better job of it. I mean, look at how they do with Marvel. Most of the Marvel films generally have been profitable, if not ridiculously profitable. Force Awakens was clearly profitable. They know how to get the market to work for them. Whether they get the right directors or have the right story is a toss-up. I mean, look at Thor. The very first one was probably, I think we've discussed, it's been the weakest of the Marvel films so far.
The Marvel films.
Iron Man 2.
No.
Easily, Iron Man 2 was far weaker than anything Thor did. Iron Man 2 only exists as a trailer for the Avengers. There's no... If Iron Man 2 had been allowed to be the demon in a bottle storyline that it had clearly been written to be before Disney said, wait, we can't sell toys of an alcoholic character to children, then it would have been stronger, but it's half a movie, and none of the characters really develop or grow.
And you can actually see the demon in the bottle story.
You can.
Sprinkled through the whole thing as it's trying to be reworked to be this other thing.
Yeah, I compare Iron Man 2 to the G.I. Joe animated movie where they got scared at the last minute of killing off Duke, so some character off screen says, he's gonna be okay, It was clearly not meant to be what it was, and you can see the skeleton there. But because they got gun shy, it really damaged the quality of the storytelling. So ultimately, you've got a movie that goes nowhere and only serves to introduce Black Widow and move the Avengers storyline forward.
Well, to be fair, didn't the Transformers movie come out the year prior?
Yeah, Transformers with the death of Prime. That really,
yes, that's why they did it,
and that makes perfect sense. Again, you gotta adjust for your market and all that. And frankly, killing Prime honestly was a bad idea. Hell, they killed a lot of the killed Wheeljack.
Now, just that though, had the G.I. Joe film come out first the way they wanted it to, because it was done first. The G.I. Joe film was animated first. Had they released that theatrically, the way the plan was, but then the Transformers had a bigger fan base at that time. The numbers, I guess it was what it was. So they released Transformers instead, and then released G.I. Joe on TV and on VHS. Had G.I. Joe killed Duke off that way, Prime might have lived.
Yeah, that's true, because people would have been like, too busy being in shock. Like, how dare you kill Duke? I'll never buy this toy again.
When you really think about it, who cares? It's Duke.
But I don't think Transformers would have been nearly as popular in the long run, because some of the best episodes are them trying to figure out what to do after Prime and trying to get Prime back in it.
True.
Yeah, and we're... Go ahead.
All right. I would say sometimes, too, as a creator, you have to take a risk. And what they were doing, and this is why I think to this day, the Transformers movie has such an impact, is because where all other animated things at that time were going to pull their punches.
Not just at that time, still most
We're still
animated
mostly.
things.
They didn't. And so you have people who watch that as a 4-year-old or whatever and remember that movie. And sometimes the first time you have to face this concept of death changes you as a person. And so there was blowback, yeah, because parents had to talk to their kids about something that frankly is really important they have to do. But
well, there was also the fact that they said shit.
Well, and let them do that.
Well, this is from two people who put a lot of cursing in their books.
Again, it's not just about the short-term impact, it's about the long-term impact for things and making a calculated decision to say, how is this going to impact, storytelling and what we can do going forward. And I think this is where the Marvel movies do fail, is because they play it real safe.
Too safe. In the beginning, when they were scrappy upstarts and had a lot to prove, they were willing to push boundaries and take more risks. But now that they're making money, they get scared more easily.
And their villains are, I'd say, oftentimes their weakest link.
Not always as weak as people make it out to be. I think it's a slightly overblown problem in certain instances. Like, I thought Baron Zemo was fantastic. I thought that was extremely well done. And I am extremely glad that Mandarin turned out to be what he was in Iron Man 3. I think that was the strongest of the Iron Man movies and one of the strongest movies of the Marvel canon because of the risk they took with that. But generally, they're getting a little bit too samey. Let's do what we did that worked before and just blow up more things this time so that the stakes feel bigger.
We're blowing up things. The characters are trying to fight against people who are a dark mirror of themselves.
Heroes versus heroes. Who can you trust?
Oh my God.
I don't know. Have anybody in Marvel Comics fought an actual villain
that
in
they
the last
didn't
several
perpetuate?
Years that wasn't like somebody they created themselves or just some other hero that they
In the comic books?
In the comic books, it's been nothing but heroes fighting heroes or fighting some bad guy that they actually created. And it's really, it's basically their own fault. It's just trying to fix their mess.
Strange didn't create his villain.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. It already existed.
What's her name created him?
But he was still boring as shit.
That's true. Strange had for being one of the most visually interesting and exciting movies that Marvel produced, it really had one of the blandest threats.
It was a softball. Total softball. Still enjoyable.
Sure.
Very enjoyable. The visuals alone, I just wish that they could have brought together the strength of writing with the strength of visuals that they produce. I don't think Marvel ever has taken that much of an interest in producing such a just visually out there kind of a film as Doctor Strange. That was a trip and a half, and it felt so perfect for that character.
You know what's funny? Going back to Iron Man 3, we have a hopeful theory when it comes to the Mandarin that he's triple playing this, that he really is the Mandarin.
Yeah,
and
that Ben Kingsley
that Kingsley is the Mandarin, and it's just a complete mind screw.
We're hoping.
It's possible.
It's possible.
Am I
also
hockey?
Just grow the character in that direction.
No, but I actually want to point at someone who's not in our chat, but in Comfort&Adam's chat, Kralo Cat, at least Netflix has some strong villains for Marvel, and I do agree. The villains that I've seen in the Netflix series that I've watched so far have all been very interesting.
Have you seen Luke Cage?
Yes.
I have not yet.
The most interesting villain in Luke Cage is dealt with far too early, and the villain that they replace him with is completely uninteresting.
Yes.
That's a problem. Like, the Netflix shows have been great for 4 or 5 episodes each, and then except for the first season of Daredevil and any of Iron Fist, which was just a disaster. But even the good ones, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Daredevil Season 2, The pacing is completely off. These are 13 episodes when they should be 10 at the most. And I think most of them, like Jessica Jones, would have been so much stronger at 6 episodes, or by giving us a plot other than the Purple Man as the exclusive enemy for the entire season.
Oh, you mean the Doctor?
The problem is that they need Moon Knight.
Well, I think with Jessica Jones too, the secondary villain in the show is her.
She's fighting herself.
Very much fighting the Purple Man still. But then she's also getting over in her head the damage that he did to her, the damage she has done to herself, and trying to reform that reconnection with Trish.
It's a very cerebral thing.
It would have been stronger if you spend more time in the beginning just with her and don't introduce Purple Man in any way until, the third act. Save him and then make one good run at him instead of they come up with a plan to catch him and then fuck it up 6 times in 13 episodes. And it just makes all the characters start to look bumbling and incompetent. It's not enough story for the amount of time they take to tell it.
Funny thing is, I started on Jessica Jones after Daredevil season 1. It's hard for me to actually go back and finish watching Jessica Jones because it just logs on.
That's because she's fighting her own need to grimace and squint.
It's a slog. It reaches a natural conclusion point pretty early in the series, and then it's almost like the writers realized, oh crap, we just ended this story. We need to stretch this out. Let's change some things and have them fail instead. I have a number of issues with Jessica Jones, which is unfortunate because I think the character is great. I think the actress did a good job with her. I think she's very well written as a character in the series. I think Purple Man is fantastic. Even though I hate not being able to like David Tennant, I like him so much that making him an unlikable character is uncomfortable.
I'm going to pause you for just a second. And two, we do need to pay attention to our stream somewhat here. So pausing you because I'm done with this.
Oh.
So there's Gambit.
Daredevil did.
Ooh.
Well,
or,
I gambited and Deadpooled. Yes. So there you go. All done. It's one whole card.
And see, she didn't have to draw the legs after all.
I didn't.
No feet.
I didn't. I'm going to have to go get something else to draw.
Fine. Do it then.
Unless you want to change over to what you're doing.
We could. I'm working on a trash mech over here. Let's do that.
There you go, trash mech.
See, we don't have that on our YouTube stream. That sucks.
I'll
I'll have to put a link up to it.
I'm going to try and get it up.
See, I can't bring myself to watch Iron Fist.
Don't. Please, just don't. Just
Well,
wait
no,
for
I-
Defenders.
I-
Because I totally forgot Sigourney Weaver was going to be the villain in Defenders.
I'm not sure I can watch Defenders because Iron Fist is one of my top 4 favorite comic book characters.
Right there with you, man.
I'm hoping maybe I'll watch Defenders. I don't have a problem with Finn Jones is acting from what I've seen of Game of Thrones and everything, but they didn't give him enough time to train, and they did not put him on a proper diet. He's not cut enough. He's too skinny and not muscular. Like, he doesn't need to be huge, but Iron Fist is not. Iron Fist is cut, and he's that steely, small muscle. And Finn Jones just looks like he needs a sandwich.
The biggest problem with the Netflix Iron Fist is they made Danny Rand a douchebag. He is a deeply unlikable little prick, and it's death to a series. If you can't root for the main character, you are not going to care about anything that happens to them. They didn't give him anything interesting to do, and they didn't give him any pathos to care about anyway. But, the other shows got by a lot on charm. For whatever flaws in pacing plagued both Jessica Jones and Luke Cage to a slightly lesser extent, they had style. You know, they had panache. They had something going on with these characters that was different and unique to them. There was
from what I've heard about the Iron Fist series, it's of all of them, it's the furthest from the way the comics portray the character.
Well, the character's a little bit schizophrenic in the comics anyway. There have been several different versions of Iron Fist's personality you could choose from. He's been, you know, the sort of happy-go-lucky guy. He's been a complete dope. He's been a very centered, like almost Buddhist kind of character. So there's a lot of ways you could have played that and still called it canon. But they didn't pick any of those. They picked shitty frat bro.
Say the version of him that they have in Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon series, I think they've done a really good job in that. Matter of fact, I feel that cartoon series is probably one of the best ones that they've released in quite a while.
The one that's on Disney XD.
Yeah.
One of my favorite runs with Iron Fist is always when he was teamed up with Luke Cage, and all the villains they would fight would overlook him, thinking he was a nobody. They'd focus on Luke Cage, and then boom, he would be the one that would kick their asses.
That's the problem with the TV show. Is they keep touting, he keeps coming off, I trained my entire life for this, I keep training, and everybody else in the show is a better fighter than he is. Everybody.
We're talking the Iron Fist Netflix film.
Yes.
Next series.
Everybody, I mean, it's like, he keeps coming on, he brags about how he's the Iron Fist, and he's the Iron Fist, and I've trained my whole life to take them on, and I train them, and I gotta do this, and I gotta do that, and every single fight he gets into, he gets walked all over.
Although in the Defenders trailer we saw he seems to have learned how to fight.
I don't
want
want
to
to
be a better fight choreographer.
Yes, I don't want to marry Sue or whatever the male version is. I don't want
Gary
that.
Stu.
Gary Stu. I don't want that kind of character, but at least give him something to back up the boasting that he keeps making throughout the entire show. And you're right, he's a douchebag.
Because as of right now, the best fighter out of all of them that we've seen in the series is Daredevil.
Yeah, and I find it criminal that one of the best martial artists in all of Marvel gets the show with the worst fight choreography of any of their series.
Well, now I know supposedly Finn Jones just did not have time to train for this show. Like, he was literally trying to learn his choreography like within a few minutes before the cameras would roll and stuff.
It shows.
No, I find a way to work around it. Like, you know, shit happens. People making movies have to deal with problems all the time, and you have to find a way to make it work. Ultimately, if things don't come together, it is the weaker mind that finds somebody else to blame, I think.
Yep. They should have Jason Bourne it. Jason Bourne uses quick cuts, really fast, in-your-face shots where they could have gotten away with the fight scenes had they not kept the camera 10 feet away. Everything was in frame. You saw every flaw, every mistake, everything, you could tell they were choreographed, where hits weren't hit, where you could tell something wasn't landing, and it was like they could have. I mean, when you're drawing a comic, it's the same way. How do I put this in frame so it's dynamic? And that there's no dynamic framing in their fighting. It is very straightforward. Here it is, and there you go.
Maybe they were trying too much to be like Daredevil, you know, first season and second season, where they had some amazingly brutal but straightforward fight
But they
scenes.
got to choreograph that then.
Well, now that is
only
the one
that,
thing I will say about the Netflix shows that bugs me. They keep trying to recreate the hallway stuff from Daredevil.
Too much. When I saw the Defenders promo where they're all doing the hallway, I'm like, come on. It was cute the first time you duplicated it. Now it's just getting tired.
Did
Well,
Luke
to be
Cage
fair,
do it?
you are. Oh, go ahead.
No, yeah, Luke Cage did do it. He did it in the jail, didn't he?
Yeah, essentially.
To be fair, though, I mean, you're in a building. You're eventually going to end up in a hallway. So
And
still,
I mean, there are worse things to do. I feel like, for me, Iron Fist winds up in a similar situation as like Batman v Superman, where if I was enjoying the experience, there's an awful lot of complaints I have that I just forget about. I let it slide. Because in a better production, they're nitpicks. They don't really matter that much. But when everything is so hard to watch, you notice the little things even more. You can't let it slide anymore because there's nothing to make up for it.
Oh, so like how we ignore the fact that Zemo's plan in Winter Soldier makes 0 sense.
Well, yeah, I've killed them all so that you will fight each other. That doesn't make any sense.
Same story as Batman versus Superman.
It made more sense in Avengers than it did in Batman Superman.
Oh, guy was really pissed off at an alien.
And so he waits years to do anything. I mean, it's just, it was
6 months.
It was poorly paced.
Oh yeah,
and
it was.
It was. The reasoning was not very strong. The way that they went about, like for all the, this is a can of worms that almost isn't even worth relitigating at this point. Smarter
We've done this on the show before.
Smarter people than us have gone over the pros and cons.
I will say this. If Adam's got the button pushed.
I got it.
All right.
He does.
Sorry, I'm all the way across the room, so I can't hit Adam to make sure he's got the button pushed. So I think the thing with those two movies is that, you might have a similar plot with them, but the execution is exceedingly different. And where Luther comes off as a manic, can't decide whether I'm Joker, whether I'm Luther, or what I am as a character, versus Zemo, who's very straightforward and well played through the whole thing.
Very consistent.
Those two things change the way you perceive something. Like, there's a lot of things that happen in stories that if you took a step back, you're like, well, that's dumb. But the way you play the story, that's the genius. So that's why I think you get something like Batman, Superman, who, I wish it was a better movie, but it has a lot of very fundamental storytelling, pacing issues, all that kind of stuff that really make it tough. And Civil War does have its issues. They're so far fewer. It makes a situation where when there is flaws, you forgive them. Like, everybody has a threshold for flaws.
And what they do well, they do much.
They do really well.
Yeah.
So I think, all stories, we're dealing with fantasy, and fantasy is going to have shitty things. And whenever somebody's like, well, this was just totally logical. Well,
people's threshold for suspension of belief is different, and different people are going to break at different levels.
Right. So you, as a storyteller, just have to say, well, what can I get away with? And what shiny, cool thing do I have over here that can maintain the suspension of disbelief? That's what I really want to do. Is I never want to do anything that's so shitty that breaks people from the movie and they say, wait a second, I'm watching a movie right now.
You're also always asking yourself, how can I add enough really fun, really exciting, really interesting moments to drive the underpinnings of the story, the heart of the story, what is really making people connect emotionally with these characters and what's happening to them, so that when the inevitable story flaws occur, and it's really, when you're trying to put this much crap together, it's inevitable that it's not going to fit perfectly. But how do you do enough good and do the good things to a level of execution that people either don't notice or don't care about the flaws that crop up?
Yep. So that's just the reality. And you know what? Civil War had many movies building up to that moment between Captain America and Iron Man, where when it hit, you still generally felt that emotion with those characters because it was a consistent movement.
Yeah, you care about them more. Batman Superman was a Batman we've never met fighting against a Superman we don't really like.
And both of them were frankly pretty unlikable characters.
Extremely unlikable.
And most of the DC universe, as of right now, because you can't say anything about Wonder Woman because you don't know dick about her.
We're hopeful,
we're
but
hopeful.
You don't know.
Right. So because we either don't know anything about them, or the ones that we met are kind of unlikable as people, it makes it hard for us to care emotionally about this versus battle. So those, there's just a lot of things that separate out those two movies. Unfortunately, I wish DC would have done things differently, but they didn't. And it's all right.
Honestly,
yeah.
I would say, honestly, I would have loved to have seen at least Christian Bale go on to do Batman vs. Superman, because, let's be honest, since he's been the best Batman that we've had since Keaton.
I think best Batman, period.
I know that, I know we've discussed it a few times, but frankly, my personal opinion is still that they didn't need to do Batman v Superman. They shouldn't have had that film at all, just because it really doesn't make sense, but they did it because they didn't want to look like they're following Marvel's footsteps for building up their world, their universe. And frankly, while you should do things unique, be different, just because you don't want to look like the same as the other guys.
Hey, we're big fans of unique over here. We're big fans of unique over here.
But all the same, it's a formula that works. You could have used the formula and then tweaked it to do, something else, something potentially better. You don't know because you didn't do it. Instead, you went in a completely different direction. And it's like, oh no, we're going to build the super team now. And it's like, why? We have no vested interest in it. I mean, Man of Steel.
Tank, to do it the other way would take time and a larger investment of money. And they want to make a fortune right now.
Right. They want to be better than Marvel at this second.
Immediately. We don't want to wait for Avengers money. We want Avengers money tomorrow.
Remember when we talked about long-term stories?
And how much they don't like doing them?
Right. Well, just that long-term stories are hard, but they pay off.
They always pay off better. You gotta be, and honestly, I don't know, if Marvel had been owned by Disney when Marvel Studios started doing the movies, they might not have been able to do them as well as they did. Because a large corporation does not have an interest in producing quality films. A large corporation has an interest in producing saleable films that will make a reliable amount of money in the fastest amount of time possible, with the least amount of commitment possible. When it was Marvel Studios, exactly. When it was Marvel Studios on their own, they had a vested interest in making sure that the Marvel brand was strong. They had to start with the Avengers because all of their bigger, better, well-known properties were owned by other people for movies. And so they knew they were back against the wall. They were in an underdog situation. You're opening with characters who at the time were not very well-selling characters. People were not that excited about the Avengers, period. And when they announced that Iron Man was their first movie, everybody was like, why would you do that? Who gives a crap about Iron Man? They had to work extremely hard in order to try and turn some garbage into gold.
The triumph of great storytelling through adversity. It's something that the original Star Wars movies didn't have, or did have, sorry.
That the prequels did not.
That the prequels absolutely didn't.
Yeah, when he had to make the original films and couldn't just do whatever the hell he wanted, he had to, face that adversity with creativity.
Right. He and, importantly,
the team of people that he was working with. They all came together. The editor, who was extremely, just central to the success of the first movie, the various writers, the actors, the whole team worked against that adversity to produce something better. But when the prequels came, he didn't have to do that. First off, everybody would do whatever he told them to do regardless, and he didn't have to listen to anybody anymore. And second off, he had the money and the technology necessary to just put his brain on the screen. No adversity means a lack of creativity most of the time.
They also suffered from the fact that there really isn't a story there. We know what's going to happen. It's like you're telling a story where everybody already read the end of the book.
Well, it's always a problem when the most interesting part of the story is the shortest moment of the story. You know, we want to see Anakin become Vader and how that happens, but that's not a long period of time. And so he had to come up with a whole bunch of other answers to give us, like, oh, where'd Boba Fett come from? Oh, where'd the stormtroopers come from? How did the Empire get started? And all this other stuff that could have been interesting, sort of, but it wasn't really necessary storytelling ground, and B, the answers to those questions were the most boring, straightforward, uninteresting versions.
Again, you had a movie that was riddled with problems. So whatever stupid reasoning might be in there was made all the more apparent by awful editing, terrible acting, not because of the fault of the actors.
I don't blame the actors,
the fault of the director. Effects that were good, but really for the time still needed a lot of polish. So there's so many factors that take those movies into awful territory, which they are. And let's be clear, the prequels, you may like them, but those movies are objectively awful.
True, but I do like it.
Ken, just because it's making me grin and I want him to do it, Tank, would you please read Firefly's last comment?
I was going to do that. So, kind of support what you guys were saying, Comfort&Adam. Firefly in our chat had said that in regards to DC kind of and Time Warner jumping the gun, as it were, they apparently forgot that haste makes waste is a saying for a reason. And I think Babylon 5 is an example of something hailed for playing the long game. And the reason why Alice wanted me to read that is because I have no interest in wanting to watch it, Babylon 5. I never did. I'm very much a Trekkie, and I had no interest whatsoever. Matter of fact, when I was younger,
Well,
I
in that
honestly
case,
thought
you
that
have watched Babylon 5.
that was,
Yes,
with
you have.
Deep Space Nine. No, I mean, it was at the time I seriously considered and felt that Babylon 5 was just was a ripoff of Trek, and I admit that's not the case now. I'm older and wiser-ish. But neither I don't have any interest in watching it. It just hasn't aged well, and I don't care.
No, the CGI has not aged well.
Well, no, it hasn't.
A very good friend of ours is a huge Babylon 5 fan, and he has told us many times, A, it is one of the greatest things he's ever watched, one of his favorite pieces of fiction of all time in any medium, and B, we probably don't need to bother watching it because it's difficult to go back to that show with the amount of time and advancement that's happened in between.
I've always been curious to do so. And the trick to, I think, watching Babylon 5, if one were to watch it, is that you have to put yourself in the mindset that the things that they were doing story-wise had not been done in either a long time or before. And that's
or just
really,
in that format.
Or in that format. Very important
stuff.
And
and really not really done that much since.
Going back is difficult. A couple of shows ago, I talked about. I went back and watched some of the old Masters of the Universe cartoons with my kids.
Mistake.
The nostalgia factor did not kick in.
Transformers was another one.
Transformers holds up a little better. G.I. Joe does not hold up whatsoever. Thundercats is like pulling teeth.
I defy you to give Silverhawks a try.
I have it, actually. I have the entire series, and I've watched with my older son a couple of episodes.
Silverhawks?
He liked it, yeah. He liked it so far. I mean, he really gets into them because he's of that age. He's 10 years old. But for me to go back now, I mean, for me, I was there when they first aired. But to go back and watch, especially Masters of the Universe, they were so bad.
But you're forgetting the most important question.
What?
A samoflange.
Oh, dear Lord.
Now, I gotta
ask, because we were talking about how the corporations, have you guys seen the extended cuts of both Suicide Squad and Batman?
Batman, Superman, yes. Suicide Squad, no.
Okay. While it's not a great movie, it fixes some of the pacing issues. Suicide Squad, why they did not release that version in theaters, even though it's still not a great movie, it has all kinds of problems with it. It's still entertaining. It's a bubblegum kind of popcorn, whatever film. Yeah, ha ha ha, people die and stuff. The Joker, weakest part of the whole film. But again, it's like why are you making them cut the films this way? Are you trying to save money on time? What are you trying to do here? When the
They were
cut
scared.
Well, don't forget, Suicide Squad was cut by a company that normally cuts trailers.
Here's what they did, because it's worse than that. They had the trailer people do a cut. They had the director do a cut. They showed both to audiences, and then they took the audience's favorite scenes and just mashed it together. So
created a film that was unwatchable.
it's the worst. It's that saying about what do you call what do you call a camel? It's a horse that was designed by committee.
Now, I will say, I am a DC fan, both in comics, and I will always be a DC fan before Marvel. I love the Marvel movies. I take the DC movies as they come. Are they great? No, but I'm getting DC characters on the big screen. I kind of like Affleck's Batman. I like the darker, pulls no punches kind of Batman. I don't like. I hope they go into more of the detective side of it a little bit more, and they show that side of him now that he's softened a tad. But I kind of like the darker Batman. I like the Dark Knight Rises or the Dark Knight Returns Batman, the guy who really doesn't care anymore.
Except that you have to build to that. Dark Knight Returns
why?
works because we know who Batman is, because we've seen the other Batman for so long that seeing this other Batman is a shock to the system. It's like you don't know that he's broken unless you have a status quo for him to break. And if he just shows up and he's a murderous monster from the very first appearance in film, then you have nothing to compare it with, unless we're assuming that other things happened before, but you can't make an audience make that kind of
They
assumption.
have Easter eggs that for us as comic readers, you're like, oh, he killed Jason Todd. Joker killed Jason Todd at some point. Hooray!
Audiences don't know that.
But audiences don't know that because, again, most of your audience has never read a comic. They don't know anything about any of this kind of stuff. So you cannot make a film for us, the 0.00085% of the population. You need to make it for probably what is somewhere around 50% of the population who's actually watching it.
True.
It's always a bad idea to have the justification underpinning a character's actions be something that we've never seen as an audience. Especially if it's a series of things, like a slow progression of transformation in a character that we never get to experience. Because that means that we're not going to understand why this person is who they are.
I will say I like the direction that they appear to be leaning for Justice League, where Wonder Woman's actually the leader.
Yeah, and I've got on Comfort&Adam's stream here. We got, I don't know how you pronounce it. I'm probably going to screw it up. Weisenfly. That's how I keep reading it in my head.
Weensfly.
Weensfly. Okay, thank you for correcting me. It's like
We could be wrong too. I don't know. Sorry, Weensfly.
We'll run with it until we're told otherwise. I've seen like more than once. Dear God, please let Wonder Woman be good. So someone here really, really wants Wonder Woman to be good, and frankly, I think it's going to be good. I'm kind of holding out hope.
Early screenings are comparing it to the first Captain America.
And if that's the case, it's going to be amazing.
Captain America.
My favorite of all the Captain America films.
First Captain America is easily one of the best movies Marvel ever produced.
And I would say I want it to be good too, and here's why. Whatever side, does the first female superhero, whether it's Marvel or DC or whatever, that's going to say to studios how a female character is going to do. So if Wonder Woman, unfortunately, if it was to be so bad that she sucks it up, and that's an awful movie, the relative understanding for studios will be that female characters don't work. And everybody gets cold feet at that point because they're like, I might not make as much money as I think I might make.
Yeah.
So
it won't be this movie failed because it was a bad movie. It'll be this movie failed because people don't like female characters.
Yes. Now, that said, when it comes to marketing, marketing is another big one. I'm going to tell everybody out there listening, go buy your son's Wonder Woman action figures.
Yes.
Prove to them that they sell to boys as well as girls.
I would agree. I remember being a young guy bemoaning the fact that I could never use female characters when I was playing because they never made female toys. And if they did, they would always be short packed, like one to a box, so I'd never find them.
It's like, let's see, you could get Chitara if you found her on the shelves. I had Wonder Woman from Superpowers.
I had Superpowers one day. She had to step in and pinch hit for so many characters that I couldn't get.
It's like they've got the DC superhero girls, which my 5-year-old daughter loves, and she really wants to see their Wonder Woman movie. Wants to see it so bad, but I'm like, baby, you're 5. I really don't think there's going to be stuff in here that you're going to want to see.
Maybe you'll be lucky. Maybe you'll be lucky.
Maybe.
You'll see it yourself and then have an excuse to see it a second time.
Yeah. But it's, I mean, she's got the costume, and she's like, if I go see it, I want to wear the costume. I mean, she's really into but my son as well. He's all like, I want to see this. I was like, yeah, and I don't really, I mean, he's 10 going on 11. I'm hoping it's not just because he's got the Linda Carter thing going on where hot chick and a bustier, but
he could do worse than Wonder Woman.
That's true. The aspect of it is that these characters exist in comic books I mean, I read Wonder Woman comic books as a kid growing up. I mean, I read them. I've actually got a book on the history of Wonder Woman. And it's like, I read her. It's not like boys don't read these, boys do play with them. It's like, it's very upsetting when you collect Star Wars figures and you still can't find a Princess Leia to save your life.
Well, like, you can find her in a slave bikini if you want that.
Not anymore.
But that's just, I don't mind that. That's just it. She was in the movie that way. It's still that. But I mean, now, I mean, you can find Rey, you can find Jin, and actually, I think they overloaded it with Jin. Jin is everywhere, and everybody snapped her up, and now she's in the discount bins. But it was like they sold. It's like,
she's dead.
People buy these buy these action figures and prove to them that it's not. Oh, it's a woman. She's not going to sell. Of course, she's going to sell.
Again, I think it's because she's dead. They've
had successful female-led franchises over and over again, and yet every time a female-led movie bombs, they go back to that old canard about people not liking female.
Well, they'll do the same thing with Black Panther. Black Panther fails. Well, you know, superhero movies with black leads won't work. So any kind of minority that isn't proven, that hasn't, you know, succeeded over and over and over again, it's really hard for them to be like, do we want to take that risk? And the answer needs to be yes. You have to take that risk in order to pave the way, in order to make it not a novelty, but a norm.
Well, culture is caught, not taught. It's something you pick up over time. It's not something you're just told. And if you're talking about shifting the culture in a way that is going to come to accept things that weren't normal before, the only way you can accomplish that is through exposure. It's like the way DC had this like driving need to replace all of their 80s and 90s characters with the like Silver Age originals to make Justice League look like Super Friends again. Their insistence that Barbara Gordon has to be Batgirl because people only know Batgirl as Barbara Gordon. Well, the reason people only know Batgirl as Barbara Gordon is because that's the only one you'll ever show us. If you start making films or using an animated series like Stephanie Brown, people would learn who Stephanie is.
Well, and
that's
for
the
Green
Batgirl
Lantern, they used John Stewart. And who became the most known Green Lantern? It was John Stewart.
And
for an entire generation.
And then they got all this backlash when the Green Lantern film was Hal Jordan. Because you've got a whole group of people who are like, what about John Stewart? That's Green Lantern. Who's this white guy? So you've got to be willing to build your bench.
I like John Stewart, but if you had interviewed, even at the time, a majority of people that said they were Green Lantern fans, they would have said that Hal Jordan is the classic Green Lantern.
And Green Lantern fans account for like half of 1% of moviegoers. It does not matter.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what comic fans think. And comic fans will buy tickets no matter what you do. They're comic fans. We, as a group, are dumb. We do this all the time. How many times have we bought tickets for Ben Affleck's Daredevil. I like Ben Affleck. I don't think he was a bad choice for Daredevil. The movie was garbage. We still went to see it, didn't we? There were enough of us that still went to see Elektra.
There was enough of us that still went to see Catwoman.
Yes.
That shitty Catwoman.
People who paid money to see Catwoman.
Because it was
fans,
Catwoman.
And I'd say this about any fans. Fans of a thing. Like, the fan is short for fanatic. It's a kind of madness. We're going to go. We're going to pay our money. We're going to pay our money just so we can bitch about it later. Like, even if we actively want to hate it. So don't worry about the fans. Worry about producing something that's going to create new fans.
New fans, and that even though it's, say, if it wasn't Hal Jordan being used, they used Jon Stewart, make it so good that even the Hal Jordan fans have to be like, well, I know it wasn't Hal, but...
Yeah.
It's really good.
And that's kind of that was the Justice League effect, because at first all the Hal fans were really complaining about
everyone
Jon Stewart.
was having a conniption fit.
But the show was so good that you still watched it and you still loved it.
And
I think the other problem is especially back then, they're trying to be faithful to these characters, and all the origin of all the Earth Green Lanterns other than Alan Scott is traced back to Hal Jordan. You don't have other Earth Green Lanterns without Hal Jordan.
Well, why? Why couldn't it have been Jon Stewart? It's the sort of thing where we're so used to seeing it one way. Here's the thing. It's like those eye puzzles where you look at it one way and it's two people facing each other, and then if you look at it another way, it's a candelabra, or like it's an old woman in a shawl. Oh wait, it's a young woman in a fur coat. We're all staring at this thing, and we are certain it can only possibly be a young woman in a fur coat. But there is no earthly reason why it couldn't have been an old woman in a shawl. We just have to be willing to change our perspective.
I just want to quick tell one story that we had, and I think this really changed our perspective to some degree. Like, it's something that happened to Adam, and I've always experienced it, through gender, because I'm a lady. Growing up, there was not nearly as many female characters in things, and when there was, even in the 80s, there was a lot of times where they were kind of there to be rescued and stuff like that. And, they were definitely trying. It was better, but it wasn't great. But Adam was a little miffed when Hal was not chosen as the Green Lantern to be on Justice League. But he had a student in one of his classes.
And we're talking like
kids,
12 and under.
Yep.
And I'm teaching drawing. And I'm, wanting to show them how to, draw people, how to draw characters. And I was asking them, shout out a character for me to draw. And one of them says Green Lantern. I'm like, awesome. Green Lantern's my favorite. I will happily draw you a Green Lantern. And I'm thinking I'll draw the most well-known Green Lantern so that they'll all know. Because if it was up to me, I'd have just drawn Kyle Rayner. But nobody's going to know Kyle Rayner except for me. They're a bunch of little kids.
Nobody likes Kyle Rayner.
Shut up. He's the best. So I start drawing Hal Jordan thinking that's the one everybody's going to know. And then, the kid who asked, this young black kid, he says to me, Green Lantern's not a white guy. What are you doing?
He's black. And you have to realize, and we had to realize, like, for this kid and for other students that we had, how important Jon Stewart was to them. Because this is a character that looks like me. And I think it's easy for a lot of people to forget, like, even as a white woman, it can be easy for me to forget that just having a female character sometimes isn't enough, because you need somebody that looks like you. And there's enough people out there in this great world of ours that represent all sorts of different things. And so that's why I think Marvel and to a lesser degree, other entities are trying to take what was largely their white male characters that came from a time that's all you did. That's all you ever did. And trying to shift them slowly into something else so that we can represent more than what was at one point in time the only acceptable thing. So as much as that's not the story for Green Lantern, and it is hard to give that up, it's important to give other people a chance to see themselves reflected and feel like, you know what, I can be that hero too, just as much as anybody else.
And to have a sense of ownership,
Yep.
you know, to have a sense of belonging in the fandom, to feel like there's room for you to exist with everybody else.
That actually reminds me. Oh, go ahead, Wolfie. Sorry.
This is going to sound bad, and it's going to sound like me trying to say, oh, no, I'm not whatever. I wouldn't have had a problem with it being Jon Stewart. What I was trying to say was, in the minds of executives, especially at that time, they weren't sure yet whether the success of comic book movies was comic book fans or general audiences. And they were locked into this idea of, we have to do these origin stories at the beginnings of these characters. So they naturally fell on Hal Jordan. Plus, all the previous Green Lantern projects that had been proposed before that one, except for, I believe, Jack Black's, focused on Hal Jordan. I believe Jack Black was going to be Guy Gardner, but I can't remember.
Nah, Jack Black was just going to do his own, pretty much do his own thing. It would have been ridiculous, but that's Jack Black. Yeah, I mean, you might be onto something there, but at the same time, it's still the mighty dollar, and they're focused on what could get them the best return for their money, which is fair. That's the nature of business. It's what you got to do. But no, your point about
sorry,
your point about the kind of the diversity thing, yeah, it makes perfect sense. You have to kind of show that anybody can be a hero. I love a story that I'd seen recently. I think it might have been a Now This, but I'm not sure now, where a kid got really, really excited about Drax, the Destroyer, because Drax comes across, because he doesn't get metaphors, and he's like, the kid's autistic. He's like, I get that. I understand this. He's just like me. That may not have been what they were going for, but all the same, it fit, it works. And yeah, it actually makes a lot of sense. It gives more of your audience a chance to, what's the phrase I'm looking for here?
Connect.
Yeah. Connect or immerse yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, to empathize with the characters on the screen. The story's going to hit home a lot harder.
Right, and very quickly going back to what executives will choose to do, oftentimes they'll choose, to be frank, the white male version of something, just because, number one, I think, yes, they think it's safe, but on the other hand too, that's what they are.
Most of them are white males.
It's why things like Avatar, The Last Airbender, was whitewashed.
We don't talk about that movie.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not convinced it exists.
It's why so many other anime series that get brought here will get whitewashed, even though we still have a lot of Asians in this country, and other people, would probably still go see Asians on the screen, but because the people who are making the movies and putting the money down look a certain way and are terrified.
They don't want to take any risk whatsoever. You have never encountered a more risk-averse group of people than executives of any sort. They want to be able to do the same thing forever and get the same results forever. I remember Kevin Smith in one of his talks. He said, "My movies don't make a ton of money, but they make about the same amount of money every time. And that's why I will pretty much always be able to make movies if I want to, because they know that they're going to get the same amount of money every time. It won't be a lot, but it'll be the same."
Where Kevin Smith was eventually able to not make movies
is when that stopped happening.
When that stopped happening.
Sure, but the point is, they would rather produce a mediocre movie that they know will make mediocre dollars than a fantastic movie that might do gangbusters but might flop.
That's my fear for Black Panther. And I was happy when Luke Cage stepped out of the white corporate, tall buildings, all that kind of stuff. That had really incredible music. Oh, that series is just awesome. Best soundtrack. But while some of it, I'm sorry, in my eyes, looked a little stereotypical, a bit here and there, it
Yeah.
still took you out of that element and said, okay, this is where he's from, this is what he deals with, and this is the world he lives in. You could either watch this or not, and they took that choice. My fear for the Black Panther is they're gonna soften it. It's a foreign country. He's a king of a foreign land. It's taking place on foreign soil. Don't screw this up.
Because that's going to
really
hurt a
hope-
lot for the
Yes.
folks who are looking up to that and like, if it does gangbusters, then that's going to open up a wide range of doors for actors and actresses in the industry for them, and it's going to open it up more for your audience because they're going to just come out in droves. It's like we can identify with them, and so this would be a good thing if they could do it. Same with Wonder Woman. If that goes gangbusters, I think it's going to, again, people and women will identify this, with a strong, confident woman, and it's going to be good for the actresses, and so on. I mean, hopefully these things do well, but it all comes down to the story. You got the characters, you just got to make a good story for it.
I love the fact that Wonder Woman is not an American woman. It's not an American actress. She's Israeli. Now, is she Greek? No, but she's Middle Eastern. She has that look and she has an accent. She's not going to come across like Linda Carter.
I do wish she was a little thicker, though. I get a little bit tired of them casting these wafy girls for the powerful ladies. When they cast Captain Marvel, I was like, she's a good actress. She plays the part well, but she's tiny. She's teeny tiny. Gal Gadot put on some muscle for this, but she's still awfully slender and small for Wonder Woman.
Yeah, but
depends on which Wonder Woman.
Yeah, if you look at the current comics, she's still fairly slender. There was some of the new 52 version of her where they gave her more musculature, more bulk like in the shoulders area and whatnot. But for the most part, they still kind of have her drawn fairly slender-ish.
She's nowhere near as
because
busty.
she's designed to be masturbated to by teenage boys and 40-year-old men. The point, it varies from artist to artist. So you have a choice. You can make her look like whatever you want. You could do anything with these characters. This is the first introduction that this character will have to most people. Like, they're aware of her existence, but they don't really know anything about her. So you could have done anything. You could have taken any artistic representation and used that as your base. Instead, you went with the same old thing that we see every time. You go with the same, traditionally kind of, young guy's going to find her nice and pretty kind of a character. It's a character cast for how guys are going to look at her rather than a character cast for the kind of imposing presence that she's going to have on the screen.
To be fair, when she showed up in Batman v Superman, I felt she had, especially once she came out in the armor, I felt her presence was, boom, she took over that film.
Oh yeah, that whole last 10 minutes of that film, 20 minutes of that film, it was all her.
It's because Batman and Superman suck.
We say this, a lot of people point out, Wonder Woman was the best part of that movie, and we always say, well, that's because she was barely in it, and they didn't have enough time to ruin her, too.
Yeah, but what they did do with her, she embodied that role. That little smirk when she gets smacked down to the ground and slides through the gravel, and it's just like, oh, you hit me. You can actually do this. And she smirks. And I was like, you know what? She's got the character. She's got that warrior. Okay, let's do this. Is she tiny? Yeah, she's tiny. Can she make up for it in the way she acts the character out? Probably. As long as she's directed correctly.
Which is fine, and I'm hopeful that she can do well. They certainly could have done a lot worse, that's true. But it could also be said that they could certainly have found a woman with a little bit more size and strength who could also have embodied that part, who could have nailed the smirk, who could also have done all the things that she did. The way that she succeeded in Batman Superman was as much to do with choreography and cinematography as anything that particular actress brought to the part.
Which is a fair point.
It is a fair point. Now, I don't know what their thinking was. I know they went for an actress who had model good looks to embody, a goddess. And when you think goddess and you think Greek statues, she kind of looks like that. So it's like...
A lot of those Greek statues look like men with oranges attached to their chests. So I don't know. Those aren't always the best reference. Take it
No,
from people
but-
who've done a lot of art history.
The Greeks had different tastes back then. Yay, history.
The aspect of the goddess is what they were going for. I do believe. I mean, I'm not going to defend. I'm not trying to body shame or defend her or anything on that. I just think, from what I've seen, I could be completely wrong when the film comes out, that she embodies the role enough that she'll be able to pull it off, and people hopefully will be able to look past the wafy side of her. Oh, she's too small. She's too this. Her boobs are too big. Her boobs are too small. How come her butt's showing? How come this is showing? I mean, this is the kind of arguing that's going on right now that I'm like, can you just enjoy the fact that we're
Why is
getting a
she
female
shaving?
superhero
Really?
movie?
Yeah, I was like, why does she shave? If she's really Greek, she wouldn't do that. You guys are focusing on the wrong things here.
As a little nitpicky, yeah.
Yeah, it was, especially when you think that the Greeks did do that. The Greeks used sugaring, and the Egyptians shaved their legs.
Oh,
it
the
goes
Egyptians
back
did
thousands
more
of
than
years.
that. Of course, they did it with a pumice stone, so it was
Well,
painful
that
as
was
hell.
also Greeks.
And then,
would
yeah.
do that.
And
That's-
Back when men were men and everybody was scared
Yeah, going back to what
and raw.
You
To the
mean back
topic
where men
of-
were men and gay sex was the norm?
Well,
As I
it
was-
wasn't gay sex. It was different.
Okay, it was
Let's not
just
go down that
sex.
road.
You're right. It was just sex.
Oh, dear
Yes,
God.
exactly. Actually, no. It
As-
was up until and this was in the Romans. Moment of history here. Until you grew a beard, it was allowed. It was okay.
Giggity.
Anyways, as I was saying, going back
So
to
that's
the
why
whole
Tate shaved.
Damn it, you
Oh
stole
my.
my line. I was totally getting ready to say that's why I shave.
Oh
Oh my.
going back to the whole Green Lantern thing, I'm honestly reminded of
We're moving forward. Damn it.
too bad. I'm honestly reminded of the old and I'm guessing you two are familiar with the Harvey Birdman attorney at law thing that they had on Adult Swim for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Attorney at law.
Yeah. The one thing that comes to mind is the whole Black Vulcan thing.
No, we've talked about that one a few times.
Yeah, we've talked about that one for a few times, but it's honestly a case of that's probably another reason why they put Jon Stewart in instead of Hal Jordan for Justice League. And to be fair, Jon Stewart on his own, he can hold his own.
Oh yeah, he runs the Green Lantern Corps now, comics wise anyway.
But yeah, if I remember correctly, the reason why they couldn't do Hal was because of the live action movies, and Hal was on that list of no, you can't use him on a consistent basis.
And it's all their licensing is even a bigger mess than what Marvel's is, but Marvel's also consolidate a lot of that stuff. Suppose we could kind of segue a little over to some of our last things here before we wrap up. I mean, we did have some notes here. We did talk about GI Joe, and we didn't even mention this about the inventor of GI Joe, where Mr. Stanley Weston.
Yes.
He passed away, age 84. Good long run though.
Yeah.
I mean, but I don't know a whole lot about him. It's like, did he invent the first GI Joe or the later ones?
You know
Anybody
what?
know?
Having just skimmed the article, I don't remember. I've been doing a lot of other things.
Well, I know he did a lot of stuff.
I'm pretty sure it was the original. From all the photography I've seen on it in the articles posted about it, I'm pretty sure he is
Kung
the
Fu
original.
Grip.
Yeah, he would have to be very young.
He was probably very young when he did
Very,
it.
very young.
I mean, that wasn't uncommon.
GI Joe.
Apparently, he
was
was creator of G.I. Joe and Thundercats, so I would assume it was the 80s version of G.I. Joe.
Really?
Well, no, I take that back. This other article says he was the creator of the original G.I. Joe action figures.
So
I don't know.
maybe he did the first ones, and then because by the time of the 80s gets around, would have been really well established in the industry. He was just hired to make the molds and figures for Thundercats, and I think I read somewhere he did Masters of the Universe and a bunch of other ones out there.
Well, the 80s GI Joe was a failed Shield thing, and because the rights or something, there was an issue with rights, it just got switched from Shield and Hydra to GI Joe and Cobra.
Yeah, that's true. I remember that now.
Yeah.
Mind blown.
You didn't know that?
Never knew that.
Yes, it was. I guess there was it was either going to be a cartoon, a Shield cartoon with Shield and Hydra, but because of licensing rights or something to that effect, it was. I mean, because it started from Hasbro, and it went through, and they're like, we can't get the license, you can't do this, you can't do this. So they're like, well, we'll just take our and do our own. Yet Marvel still backed it and actually did the comics and the cartoon. But it became G.I. Joe and Cobra instead of Shield and Hydra.
Yeah.
I'll be damned.
And the rest is history. Except for Cobra Law, we don't talk about that.
Joe.
And knowing's half the battle.
That was jumping the
Pork
shark.
chop sandwiches.
I see what you did.
I'm a computer.
Hey kids, stop all the downloading.
Who wants a body massage?
We got a comment in the YouTube chat, since I actually just got it to work again because I had to refresh it. Samuel Albro says Superman the Animated Series just took Hal's origin and applied it to Kyle, so it's not impossible.
That's true. And you could even have it, instead of being Abin Sur falling to Earth giving Hal the ring, you could have Hal fall to Earth and give John the ring, and then you've got Hal like recuperating or something while John gets to be the lead in the story. So you acknowledge that past while
You don't
still
have to
making
explain it to me. Like I said, I would have been fine with John.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you could have done that would have been really interesting and would have left room for growth down the line. The biggest problem with Green Lantern as a franchise is everybody wants to milk everything out of it immediately instead of doing the build. Like, that Green Lantern movie was 3 movies in one.
Yeah.
It tried way too hard with a director who was very unsure of himself in the genre, and it just fell apart piece by piece. And by the end of that film, being a very big Green Lantern fan myself, I was so upset.
That is the reason why
they went straight to Parallax. I was so upset.
Ugh.
Yeah, I was just saying that is the reason why you don't make the super suit green or animated.
I didn't have a problem with the animated suit. It made sense if it was just pure energy, and it really wasn't there.
And it did look a lot better in action than it did in any of the stills.
True.
But still, I mean, Green Lantern is my favorite concept in superhero comics. The Green Lantern cast as a whole is my favorite set of characters, and I never wanted there to be a Green Lantern movie because I knew that that's what we would get. It's just too much. It's too a Green Lantern TV series, the Green Lantern animated series they did was fantastic. I loved it. But as a movie, there's too much. They're always going to rush it. They don't have the patience. Thank you. Yes, the patience necessary to do what they have to do.
That's why I don't draw comic books.
And then again, there's the opposite side of that. They do have the patience to do what they need to do it right, and then it doesn't pay out. For example, Judge Dredd, the remake with Carl Urban, one of, I think, most of us here consider it a favorite film.
Yep.
No, that's Stallone's version.
I don't even mind Stallone's version, but Carl Urban as Judge Dredd was like perfect casting. It was just a good movie.
Yeah, and now there's apparently going to be a TV show.
Get Carl Urban.
Oh, you kind of have to. It's like Christian Bale embodies both Bruce Wayne and Batman. Carl Urban just really embodies.
I don't know.
Judge Dredd.
I am a Michael Keaton fan. I think that's why I like Affleck's, because he seems like the continuation of Affleck's Batman, or of Keaton's Batman.
Affleck.
Keaton's Batman was steering on the dark side a lot, and you add years to it.
Keaton's Batman killed a lot of people.
Yes.
He was pretty murdery.
He was very
did not
murdery.
give a fuck.
No, I
He
love that
machine
Batman.
gunned a factory, for God's sake.
He bombed a
He
factory.
bombed a factory.
Keaton Batman was almost a terrorist.
He also
Batman.
stuffed dynamite down a clown's pants, I believe.
Yeah, he threw him in the sewer.
He threw a guy in the sewer and dropped a bomb in and then smirked at the camera as he blew it up.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe I like a Batman that doesn't pull punches. Now, a Batman that uses guns, not so much. But a Batman that doesn't pull punches, no, I don't mind it at all.
I don't find a difference intellectually between using guns and murdering. The guns are simply a visual representation of the fact that Batman won't murder. It makes for a better. It's easier to point at a gun and say I won't use guns, when what he's really saying, like metaphorically, is I won't use the weapons of the enemy. I won't become the thing that I'm hunting. And like Batman, Superman, if his issue with Superman is he's dangerous, he's out on his own, he could kill all these people, and I'm going to be the better man by working on my own and killing all these people. Like, there's no distinction between those characters morally, so there's no distinction between them in the film. There's no sides in the film. It's just this guy wears black and this guy wears bluish black.
Superman didn't kill.
Superman, but that was the fear that Batman had. And also, Superman really, like, come on. He walked that line.
Collateral damage everywhere.
Collateral damage everywhere. He didn't actively
give any
kill.
shits about all the people who were dying constantly
In Smallville.
In Smallville,
He would pick up and throw dudes through gas stations, causing huge explosions all throughout town. Like, he's not actively murdering people, but he doesn't care.
There's
if
a
they get
point
killed.
where he could throw a guy into a field and take care of him that way. Oh no! I'm going to throw him into the train yard where some people are going to die.
Yeah.
The Sears is gone. The IHOP is gone. Everything is fucking gone.
IHOP.
He doesn't give a shit. The amount of people that died, and you know what? Batman Superman does start with something that's great, where Bruce Wayne is like, what the fuck is this shit? Holy cow, this fight killed probably thousands, if not maybe a few million people. That's how ridiculously deadly that fight was. It was horrendous. And you're saying this guy's a hero? Are you kidding me? Yeah,
but he's not.
I would be pissed as Batman.
The world would never get behind Superman after that. He would have been blamed for everything that happened. He would have been public enemy number one.
You cost the world billions of dollars easily. Yeah, Superman's not a good guy. Trillions.
I think they actually did an estimate on the damage to Metropolis and said that the global economy would lose.
And then in the movie, the thing that there's a prosecution for Superman against isn't what happened to Metropolis. Oh no, Metropolis is just fine. It was rebuilt super fast. It's what happened in this little third world country, in this little thing that really, honestly, the world doesn't care about.
Yeah.
The world doesn't care about those things right now. The world wouldn't care about that. They care about that 9/11 kind of stuff that was happening.
But they added that to it. It was a buildup of all of his good versus all of the bad that he does.
That was not presented in the movie as being the case.
Also,
they built a statue in his honor in the movie.
Yeah, they did build a statue. And
True.
It doesn't really fit considering all the collateral damage. But I should point out that in the comics, even one of the favorites of all time, the fight with Doomsday, happens in Metropolis. That probably killed a lot of people, and he just didn't. He didn't focus on trying to save them. I mean, sure, he was trying to save them, but at the same time, he really wasn't. Because why aren't we trying to push this guy out of the city?
There's a moment in the Death of Superman where he stops in the midst of fighting Doomsday, hurls Doomsday out of the way, and then goes in to save the construction crew putting up a building. This is the origin of Steel. Steel's life was saved in the midst of Doomsday's rampage by Superman. And when Steel said, I can't believe you would take the time to save me when all this is happening, Superman says, make it worth it. And that's why he became Steel later on. So if they explicitly showed him taking time out, part of why Doomsday was beating him is because Superman was trying to stretch between rescuing people and stopping Doomsday. If he had just focused on Doomsday, it might have been over faster.
True,
Yeah,
had they shown it.
Yeah, had they shown stuff like that in both films, both Man of Steel, and I enjoyed Man of Steel, but if they'd shown him actually splitting the difference there, that would have really shown. I mean, the Christopher Reeve films were definitely better in that respect.
It's maybe the most frustrating part about the DC movies so far is that it wouldn't be difficult to make them into good movies. But they're made by somebody who clearly thinks that heroism is stupid and hope is a lie.
And on record saying so.
Has said explicitly that on record multiple times.
Which is why we got Sucker Punch.
And Watchmen.
Yeah, but Watchmen was a dark story from the beginning.
Right, and Watchmen makes sense for him. But at the same time, you can't do Batman and Superman as Watchmen characters. No. It doesn't work. You can't paint it with the same palette.
The aspects of Man of Steel. Now, the collateral damage stuff, and yeah, it does work against the character. I'm not going to excuse it, but it was the first time he was Superman. He had never had to use his powers in that way before. My one thing I did love about that whole film was it's the first time we got to see Superman as an alien. He wasn't a human. He knew he wasn't human. And when he finds out he's actually from another world, it now became, wow, okay, who am I? Where am I from? What do I do? And he was unsure of himself. They carried that over into the next film. Does it make him unlikable? Maybe. Because he's not the he's not the big blue Boy Scout that we're used to. And it's a way of portraying Superman I don't think we've ever seen, where it was always accepted. He was always, oh, he's Superman. He could do no wrong. He's the big blue Boy Scout. And he's fallible. And I don't think people like a Superman with flaws.
I think you have to pick the right flaws. Yes. I think the thing that makes Superman is the struggle to be human. The emphasis on the man instead of the super.
Yep.
It's not, Superman isn't, ultimately, he's not an alien. He's an immigrant. He's from someplace else. He has no memories of where he's from. This is his home. You know, Ma and Pa Kent are his parents. When people put too much of an emphasis on the alien origins, like that would make sense.
Alien or the Jesus side of it or whatever. That's the stuff that was added by other creators later. But originally Superman was made by 2 Jewish immigrants. And they were telling this story. And so I think that is when he really works best. He's not like this godlike character, because honestly, a lot of people, when you talk to them, what's the problem with Superman? He's too powerful. He's a god. Blah blah blah.
Nothing hurts him. Yeah, you can't be stopped.
But that's because a lot of creators miss the parts of humanity, and he doesn't have to necessarily be infallible. That's boring.
No, he shouldn't be infallible. But he lives in a world where no matter what he does, it will never be enough. He lives in a world where it's like, well, I'll compare this. I'm an artist, right? And the better I've gotten at being an artist, the more I expect out of myself. If I could, 10 years ago, have looked at the art I'm making today, I would have been flabbergasted at how good I would someday become. I look at it now and I think of how much better I ought to be. Now imagine that you're Superman. You know, you have the ability. So many of us are able to hand wave away all the things we don't do by saying, well, there's nothing I can do about it. Why? How can I? Like, I'm not going to spend my time worrying about all of these crises, because ultimately I'm just a dude. What could I possibly do about it? Every time Superman sees a story about somebody who died, he feels, I actually literally could have done something about that.
Yes.
He never gets to be himself. He's always like, Clark Kent is an act he puts on, and Superman is an act he puts on. It's only with his parents and, you know, later on Lois, that he can actually be himself. And even still, he has to put on an act for their sake, because he doesn't want them to worry.
And this is why someone like Lex Luthor is such a great foil for Superman, because Superman, if he wanted to, could murder Lex Luthor right now.
And it would all be over.
What. It'd be, you know what? He did his due diligence. Fantastic. He's dead. Huzzah. But Superman, because he's a good guy, because he works within this society, because he wants to be a part of this society, won't just murder Lex Luthor and become the thing that Lex Luthor is constantly warning him that he could
warning
become.
The world.
Mm-hmm.
Warning the world,
that's
right.
What Lex wants is for Superman to break his moral code and prove that he is dangerous and evil.
That he is the god, the dictator that he's saying, that Lex is saying he is. And Superman's not going to give in to that. So, how does the strongest man in the world take down somebody that you can't touch?
Yeah, because businessman Lex could do all of the worst, most evil things you could ever imagine without breaking any laws. I mean, businessmen do it all the time.
Oh, it's true.
Yep. So that's the stuff that could really, I think, be played well with Superman, and that could work. And you could have Superman that feels like he's screwed up, that isn't perfect.
Sure.
But again, he has to be somewhat sympathetic of what's happening around him. Like, why does he care? Like, another thing that movies need is growth and change. And
which they try a little bit.
But not really. He opens up the movie risking himself to save a bunch of oil riggers. And he ends the movie risking himself to save a family in the subway. All that's changed is he shaved and put on a suit.
There's the two films. By the time when Congress blows up, and he's standing there, and he's now to that point where it's like everywhere I go, people hate.
But how does that make him? How is he different there than he was when he was struggling with his conscience over whether or not to save his father, or whether or not to kill Zod, or whether or not to put on the suit and go public? It's the same story over and over. It's the same struggle
that he's
over and over.
Still going through.
Yeah.
And that would be fine, but you do have to do some kind of a resolution for that character that moves him forward to say, I've now learned this. Now, maybe, again, because it's Zack Snyder, and Zack Snyder doesn't believe in heroism at all, the point is that heroes are stupid and trying to save people is dumb. Maybe that's the point, and I wouldn't be surprised if in part that is. That's pretty bleak and pretty shitty, but that might be the point, that don't try.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, that comes back to whether or not, how much of Zack Snyder's personal business he's putting into these characters, but
we'll find out in Justice League.
Yeah.
We'll find out whatever DC corporate was scared into doing in Justice League.
Yeah.
That's what we'll find out, because Suicide Squad was what Suicide Squad was because Batman and Superman, for all the money it seemed like it made, if you added in the costs of advertising and stuff like that, it really didn't do very well at all.
Yeah, it didn't do well enough.
And so DC, who needs Warner Brothers, that needs a tentpole, which is a movie that holds up all their other movies that could fail, didn't have that. And that was so scary for them. And so everything else is going to be constantly saying, can we find the formula that makes us the money that keeps us going as a studio? They don't have really Harry Potter anymore. They don't have those other things they used to have. They're putting all their eggs in this basket, and it's a scary basket to put those eggs in. And so they're going to keep meddling until they hopefully find the right formula.
Which is hopefully Wonder Woman.
We'll see. I hope so.
The way it's being portrayed, that she is a character who wants to help.
We seem to be echoing.
They've made really good trailers before.
True.
Well, speaking of trailers, kind of getting down to the last few minutes here.
The movie you never knew you wanted.
Yeah. I really don't. I didn't have much interest in seeing Blade Runner. At least not this
the original
new one. I saw the original, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me. I got bored with it.
Oh, I love Blade Runner. The director's cut, not the theatrical.
Maybe it would be different if I saw the director's cut.
I've always heard you need to go and watch the final cut.
Yes, that's the one.
Oh, that one.
There's three or four different cuts. But it's still, even the theatrical cut, it's a good film. It's a dystopian movie I can get behind, even though I don't like dystopian movies.
I say for everybody, go watch Blade Runner, just because it's that precursor to a lot of things that you see today. It was so original and so interesting and creative for its time. Put yourself back in the 80s and watch Blade Runner. And there's different cuts and stuff. I think they all have their pluses and minuses and stuff. Whether or not I think I care about a sequel, I don't know if I really do. Again, every movie studio wants another tentpole, and I'm not sure how much of my childhood that I need sold back to me at a certain point.
Yeah, it gets a little tiresome.
Like the new
Avatar
Hellboy
movies.
movie?
Avatar is like James Cameron.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I really liked the first Avatar. I think that it receives an unfair amount of hate. I think there was an awful lot of pushback against it just because of how popular it became. And people love hating popular things. But it's definitely... I think if we hadn't had the constant press push about what's happening with Avatar, it would... Like if it just showed up one day, years down the line, and hey, we're doing more of these movies, fine. People would be a lot more willing to take it. But the fact that they just keep talking about it and pushing it back and talking and pushing and talking, it's exhausting, and people don't care that much.
True. That iron was hot 3, 4, 5 years ago.
And
And it's expending what goodwill they had for the franchise.
Kind of like Aliens. I actually posted on Facebook. I was like, I guess the Ridley Scott is toning back what he wanted to do, but even then, it's like, how hard is it? How do you prep these films? Group of humans on a spaceship either land on a planet where there's eggs or a colony, a lost colony, and then there's eggs, and then somebody meets up with a face hugger, and then we have filler drama / whatever in for 25, 30 minutes while this thing gestates, then it breaks out, and everybody has to run. Everybody dies but one person, and then the movie's over.
It's 10 Little Indians. You know?
Yeah. What about the idea of a new Hellboy movie with,
Nope.
Yeah, the moment I read there was no Ron Perlman, I was like, nope.
You're not going to do better.
Nope. The actor they've got, they're like, the guy from Stranger Things, who the only other thing I can remember him from was being the douchebag from the Mission or the James Bond movie. No. No. Ron Perlman was Hellboy. It wasn't just, it's Ron Perlman, and I got that whole James Bond, Sean Connery versus Roger Moore thing going. I was like, no. He's been pushing for three for what, a decade now? And then you're like, nope, it's not going to happen. We're just going to reboot it. Well, why not just make the movie that you should have made? Make the third one.
Why aren't they doing that? I mean, if Ron Perlman's down for it, is it because the
Del Toro
creator's
wants like
out?
$200 million to make it.
That should be pocket change at this time for a lot of studios.
Especially when it's a movie that they know will make money.
Neither one or two broke $100 million, I don't think.
We can find out.
They weren't popular enough. They weren't popular enough to justify the budget. And at this point, the studio is thinking that, like with Avatar, any goodwill that was behind this franchise died a decade ago. So you've got to start from scratch if you're going to do anything with it at all.
I want to quick point out how sorry we are that we are not reading all the stuff in our feed tonight. There's been a lot of great comments that we have not been able to get to. But you guys have all been awesome making comments.
Yes, indeed. It's very, very talkative over on theirs. And for the record,
everybody's over there instead of over here.
Well, they got the bigger fandom.
True.
Wish I had that many people that followed me on Twitch and talked in my chat.
Yeah, nobody likes you.
We're at the point where at least for me and Tate, if someone talks in chat, we get confused.
Wait, what are you doing? Oh, and for the record, Hellboy worldwide gross was just under 100 million, and Hellboy 2 was 160 million. So it actually did better than the first one.
It was a better movie than the first one.
Yeah.
So I mean,
fun movies.
And their production budget. $66 million the first time, $85 million the second time. If they had a $200 million budget with the same cast, I think it'd be a fantastic film.
I think they need to nail the story down, because those two movies, they had some fun moments, but I felt like they did not capture the magic of Hellboy for me as it comes across in the books. And I tried desperately not to be one of those, the book's better kind of snobs, because I don't like that guy. I don't want to be that guy. But there is something to Hellboy the way his adventures work, the kind of mystery and horror and pulpy blend that they put together that I just didn't quite feel like those movies were able to get. You get glimpses of it now and then, but never enough to leave you dancing at the end of the movie.
And a good, and I think David is here, a good David Peterson question, because David loves Hellboy.
Oh, yeah, I do see he has been commenting in your guys' chat. Although we got to talking about Superman and comics versus that, and the fact that he killed in the films. It's like, well, he killed in the comics too. It was very big on Superman's conscience, the fact that he killed Zod and the other two Kryptonians.
But he didn't. It's all about what version you're choosing to present and why. The question to me is not, was it right for Superman to kill these people? Was he justified within the context of the story? Were there other options that he could have used? I think that's missing the point. For me, the big question is, why did Zack Snyder and Warner Brothers want to present a Superman who was going to kill, who was put in a position where that had to happen? Why did the writer want Superman to kill? Why did the writer want to present a bleak, dreary, hopeless Superman story? That, I think, is a more interesting question because it gets to the heart of the sort of character that is being presented to us. It's the sort of story they're trying to tell, and why they want to tell that story will tell you a lot about what they think about who this character is and their opinion of the greater DC universe.
I like when we have intellectual people on.
See, I like when we have people on because well, yes, you're not intellectual, but because, we do get shows that are as entertaining and go this long.
True, and we do have to wrap this up, though. But we're pushing the 3-hour mark, and that's an hour longer than we usually go.
Yeah, but it's not often we get guests, and
it's not often.
We can do a part 1 and 2.
Guests.
Yeah, but some of us have to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
But
it's true.
That is true. Anytime you guys want to come back and we can keep going on this discussion, we'll figure out the technical issues a little bit better.
Yeah, shave some time off at the beginning. No,
Yes.
You get us talking about this stuff, and we are people with many opinions.
I just want to get you guys going on indie comics. Actually, I want to because back in the day, I read quite a few, and I haven't picked up an indie comic. I think I was reading Saga for a while, but I haven't picked up anything recently. That's not true.
It's almost exclusively what we read now, with very few exceptions.
I think that's the only one I've been reading.
Oh, Sex Criminals is awesome.
It is just such a weird book.
Me and Tank have vested interest in indie comics.
Yeah, considering that we're trying to get Crimson Blade going. Well, actually, we got at least 2 parts written. We're just waiting on the project manager to get through with it.
All right then.
That's life, though. That's the way it goes. You just have to work with what you got available, and yeah, we will get it happen. It'll happen. Everybody who listens, if you're not bought Uniques, especially Director's Cut, you will need to buy it. I am not part of the presidency. I can shill for Adam and Comfort all day long.
I'll shill for some more. If you're one of our listeners and you don't follow them, go to adamandcomfort.com. Is that what it is?
Comfort&Adam.com.
Comfort&Adam.com. And then your Comfort and Adam on Twitter. And
we're Comfort and Adam everywhere.
Everywhere. Comfort and Adam on Facebook. And go check out their stuff on ArtStation. They're really good.
Except on DeviantArt. I said, what I realized when I was going through and I was posting the pictures, like, wait, these are only done by Comfort.
Yeah, we do have separate DeviantArts because we started our DeviantArts a long time ago.
Before we were the one entity, and if you guys have us back on the show, ask us why we are Comfort and Adam instead of Adam and Comfort.
Ooh. I have a feeling Adam and Comfort is a not safe for work thing.
See, I could end this show and start a marital fight at the same time. I'd be like, who's the better artist? But I'm not going to say that.
You just did. It's too late now.
That's not a real question because honestly, when I look at the artwork that I've seen, I can't say one's better than the other from what I've seen, and I don't know who drew what. I wasn't looking at who did what.
A fair chunk of that is both of us working at the same time.
Well, there you go.
Yep. So you can't tell.
We both draw, we both color, we do it all together. I don't think With some exception, as professionally, I don't think there's a value to distinguishing between us.
We like to think of ourselves as the two-headed hydra of comics.
It's a symbiotic process.
Yep.
It's very subtle differences. You have to have been watching them for a long time to notice them.
I gotta say, it's rare to see a collaboration that works so well in two people that blend so well that way. And it's awesome that you guys found each other.
We were very lucky.
We were very lucky. That's another story for the next time.
For the next time. But for the next time, since yes, we're gonna end the show. So gave your shouts out. We'll shout out to us. Remember, coming down the line in the future, the Geek Easy will be changing formats slightly. There will be big changes coming down the road. So keep an eyeball out on our Twitch or our Twitter feed and our Facebook feed to see what those are. That is at The Geek Easy on Twitter and facebook.com/TheGeekEasy. Any hate mail for your listeners, if they really, really don't like what we said, you can send it to thegeekeasy@gmail.com. If you thought it was awesome and you wanted to talk to us and give us ideas for shows, send it over there as well.
If you're Fox, we're sorry.
Yeah, whatever we did, we're sorry.
No, we're not.
No, we're not, because I have no
really,
idea what we did. But that was, 3 years ago?
Something like that.
Yeah, I was like one of our first shows. They nailed us for something. But, yeah, I think we're done. So, I say thank you, Comfort and Adam.
I have been a member of
so
DeviantArt for 10
welcome.
years.
We love being here, you guys.
Now, again, it was nice to have a geeky talk with people who know geek. I mean, you guys are so involved. It's not even funny.
That's
awesome.
why I'd like to have more people on more often.
Well, we'll have guests. Oh, I forgot. Next week, we have guests next week as well. I have to give that shout out. The little teaser at the end. Jim Bray and possibly a few others from the Outer Rim anthology web series will be back on our show with some announcements for something that's going on with their first episode. I do believe it is. We might actually get a trailer. I don't know. I have to talk to Jim about it. But they'll be on next week with us, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, live here on YouTube and Twitch. And unless there's anything pressing, say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Ciao, everybody.
We're out.
Laters.
Thank you.